Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
This is what you see is what is to come. It's the first time you see the Space Center Wellness Center. These systems can reach man in the deepest part of the universe. As you can see, the transmutation and transportation of the soul and the physicality is within the system. And you will see each system on its own. It can reach all conditions of unwellness of the body of the man operated by doctors. It's part of the space program. And for the first time, we show what is to come. And these machines have been operating for past 12 months. We know how they work. And some of you who've been to LINS sat in some of these systems. Now they've been positioned as one of the first wellness centers in the world. Now you see the future of wellness, feeding and making peaceful man out of the man. In this center in coming months, hundreds of these units will be installed. And more or less anyone in the world can reach. As you can see, there is room enough to add huge number, and the doctors will monitor everything remote. This is more or less the hospitals of tomorrow with no patients.
And welcome everyone to the Keshe American Knowledge Team for December 31st, 2023, the last day of the year and the beginning of a new year. So we wish you all a very happy, healthy, peaceful, and well 2024. We don't know what is coming, as Ed wrote in the chat. Maybe I'll read that later, some of his wishes. It may not be so easy, but we're going to continue on. I think the collaboration and cooperation of the nations, of course, will become easier because it's going to all be supported by this technology. So the borders will, in a way, naturally disappear, and all the rest of it that goes with it as we move into this one planet one nation race for world peace. So this is what I think Mr. Keshe called it, the 2024, the year of completion. So I think some of the sessions, and we're going to get into that a little bit today to try to understand what's going on in some of these sessions, how we should kind of look at it, maybe explain it to the others in a way, but we're finding out it's all about you and changes to yourself, not so much anyone else. And of course, it's not just the changes you experience while you're in a session, but it's the changes that may come a day, a week, a month, or even more later on. These energies that are coming in, the parts that are being activated in a way. And as we saw with the wellness system, I don't think any of us could operate it. It will take man quite a long time to fully understand it, but we'll all have the ability to use it. And this is the beauty, and this is where the change is coming in. So that's what we're going to explore today. I want to thank you all for being here and sharing part of your time and bringing the change, not only to the planet, but really to yourselves in some shape or form. And this sort of processing will become a standard in a way, I think, of enlightening people in the coming time, but we'll have to see. I know it was mentioned about the politicians running for office. One of the questions that'll be asked was, have you been processed? Have you been through the system? Have you become a peaceful creature in so many ways? And a lot of other good things that go along with that being peaceful. So this is what we're bringing. Again, he said we create the pool for you, but it's up to you if you want to put your toe in it or your foot in it or do flips into it. It all depends on what you like. So they're setting the table. They're showing us the beauty of the knowledge of who we are, understanding that the Creator has transmuted into us. So now we need to continue with that ethos of thinking good, speaking good, and doing good. And that's the gifts of this time of year, but we need to take it through the whole year. And that's one of the things I realized, to go and approach every situation with the thinking good, speaking good, and doing good. And he indicated it's not only for the physicality, it's also for the soul. The souls think, the souls communicate, and the souls do things. And amazingly, he said even the soul has a soul. So we're finding out more and more, little by little, the knowledge is being opened up, and it's for you to find it out within yourself, and then, of course, share it with the others. Before we proceed, as usual, we'll start out with the World Peace Treaty, which is, again, the system that we just saw. The wellness system helps to create a peaceful creature out of the man. But you can do a lot of the work yourself. And I think this is what Mr. Keshe is saying. If we do it and turn the planet into a peaceful planet in one flick of a finger, then we won't really appreciate it. It'll look like magic. But if we do it ourselves, if we walk away from the killing and war, then we will hold on to it. And the technology is there to support us. So this is, again, finding peace within yourself, peace within your environment, and peace with the universal community. This is the ethos. Apparently, we need to carry into space so that even our soul, he said, you need to protect or be careful that your own soul doesn't become an abuser of the others. I don't understand that fully. I thought the soul was perfect already, but again, we are just learning a very small percentage of this knowledge. It's going to keep growing and growing step by step. As we've heard, this ladder has thousands of steps. This is the World Peace Treaty offered by the Keshe Foundation. I know Mr. Keshe went to the world governments in 2000 or before that. I can show the people how to feed themselves and to generate their own power. He told the world governments, and the government said, no, we don't want people to have this technology, but it's being delivered. You've seen it. We're experiencing it. China has taken it up. So this is the proposal: advanced technology in exchange for peace. And it'll make the peace so much easier to hold on to and to demonstrate when the advanced technology is here. It'll be like a support mechanism in a way for this peace. Because once we all realize we can create most of the things we need through systems, through wishes and others, there's no need for war here or in space. The World Peace Treaty. Unless someone else would like to read it, feel free to join us. Anyone? The World Peace Treaty. We, as citizens of the earth from this moment on, accept to lay down all tools of aggression and war. We shall never think about getting involved or incite war or develop or use any tools of war on this planet or in space. And to this we all agree and swear with our, and you can put in the nation, the territory, the council, the religion, the city, the town, the body, or a soul, have it witnessed. And after signing this treaty, be proud to display this certificate wherever you consider being important to you, that everyone can see and know your ethos to fellow men and the mankind and other created beauties of the Creator. And as we're learning, the Creator has transmuted into everything we see and we can't see. So you're actually dealing with the Creator most of the time, even though we look at it as a plant, as a cat, as a bug, or an ant or a lion. We know the Creator has shown himself in trillions and trillions of faces across the universe. So I think this is the understanding, and I think these systems help us to get to this peaceful, enlightened condition. And as we get to a tipping point, or as more and more people go through this process, it'll spread much more rapidly. But this is the beginning of it. You're all involved in it. You're not here by accident. So we thank you for your time and the work you do in bringing this process to the end of this cycle and to continue into the next cycle. And I'm sure humanity on the soul level, you don't have to be recognized by your face or your name or anything like that. But at the soul level, the souls will thank you and give to you. Anyone have any comments? One of the things we've been looking at in this workshop is the white paper put out by China in September about a shared future, a global shared future, asking us to consider where we're going and how we're going to go about this path. I think the technology will support this paper in quite a dramatic way. We haven't come to realize that the Keshe Foundation is incorporated into this economic plan. And of course, it's only within the BRICS nations now, I think, but they're reaching out for everyone to be brought into the center, this idea of Taoism and so on, where everybody shares in a way equally and create this win-win situation. So this is something in the matter state that we've been reading. I think it's a great paper, but now we have the technology to back up or to support this collaboration or this idea of a shared future, in that we're all involved, from the smallest nations to the largest nations. And as we go into this one planet nation, there'll be no borders and we'll all move into this. And I think the governance will be easy. As Mr. Keshe said, in Palestine, a two-state solution will not work. You need a one-state solution to make it work. And I think that's the same with the global outlook. If we move into one nation, it'll be much easier to manage the planet. And plus, the citizens will be in that sort of peaceful condition, when they know they can feed themselves, when they can travel, when they can create wellness, It's just going to be a beautiful planet to move across and to enjoy. And then, of course, we extend that into the solar system and the galaxy and the rest of it. This is something for the nations to consider, world leaders to consider. We need to start working together. And this is part of the process of the Universal Council and the rest of it. Would anyone like to read part of this paper? I think we'll just go maybe down to 2. We're just taking a little bit by bit, small bites every week of it. The vision of a global community of shared future is the outcome of China's wisdom in handling contemporary international relations from the perspective of world peace and development. A Chinese plan for improving global governance, and a Chinese proposal to address various challenges in the 21st century. Vision guides action, and direction determines the future. The international community should work together to turn the grand blueprint into a roadmap and a beautiful vision into the reality, step by step, step by step. Pressing ahead with a new type of economic globalization. And of course, this is working beautifully in with the technology as they've decided to take up the Keshe Foundation technology. That's a real backbone in a way to proposals like this. Economic globalization is an irreversible trend of global economic development and is in line with the desire for development and cooperation held by people of all countries. Economic globalization has greatly facilitated trade, investment, flows of people, and technological advances, making an important contribution to global economic development. However, problems and drawbacks also accumulated in the process, and there are attempts at retreating from it. The current model of economic globalization fails to reflect the demands or represent the interest of developing countries. The law of the jungle, zero-sum game, and the win or lose, winner take all mindset have exacerbated the divide between the rich and poor, as evidenced by the widening gap between developed and developing countries, and that within developed countries. Some countries blame their problems in domestic governments on economic globalization or other countries, and resort to unilateral protectionist and bullying actions. This has damaged global industrial value, supply, and consumption chains, and caused turbulence and even conflict in the current international trade order. Promoting a new type of economic globalization, in essence, for building a global community of shared futures. Countries need to pursue a policy of openness and explicitly oppose protectionism. The erection of fences and barriers, unilateral sanctions, and maximum pressure tactics so as to connect economies and jointly build an open world economy. Countries should strive to build a system of fair, reasonable, and transparent international economic and trade rules. Press ahead with trade and investment liberalization and facilitation, and promote further global economic openness, exchange, and integration in order to form an economic globalization that is open, inclusive, balanced, and beneficial for all, so that people of all countries can share the fruits of economic globalization and world economic. Opening up should be a two-way journey, not a one-way street. One cannot demand the opening of other countries while closing its own doors. Some countries are seeking to decouple from and break chains with China, enclosing themselves in small yards, high fences, which will ultimately only backfire on themselves. Some people overstate the need to reduce dependence and the risk. which is essentially creating new risks. Risk prevention and cooperation are not mutually contradictory, whereas non-cooperation is the biggest risk and non-development is the biggest threat to security. Pursuing desynchronization in the name of de-risking and reducing dependence undermines opportunities, cooperation, stability, and development. The current revolution in science and technology, marked by artificial intelligence, will have a profound impact on the new round of economic globalization and social development. Relevant rules and standards should be established to support scientific and technological innovation and guard the red line of human security. The interest of all countries, especially developing ones, should be taken into account in a balanced manner to ensure that technological innovation is placed under the rule of law and internationally recognized norms, and ensure that innovation is steered by and works for humanity and is consistent with human values. And as we say, the technology that's being developed is almost going to push this proposal quite strongly. It's definitely a backbone in a way of making this into a reality that the nations who want to join in this win-win process will have to pledge their nations to peace, as I understand it. Or maybe not fully without any military, as if someone gets out of hand, obviously they're going to have to sort of deal with it cooperatively. But this is the path I think we should go, joining with China. And this is part of the one planet, one nation, one race for world peace that the Universal Council is representing and the Keshe Foundation has put forth. So this is working quite well in with the collaboration in China. I think it's very good, and a lot of misinformation. I'm sure we've heard about China, and I'm sure they hear quite a bit of misinformation about the West as well. But this sounds like a very concrete, well thought through, and then of course having the advanced technology to see it through. Anyone want to make any comments on this? I had often thought in the past that we did need borders and we needed to defend those borders, but now with the new technology and people being able to move around the planet so quickly and so rapidly, is there a need for all this paperwork and all the rest of it and the lines and checking this and checking that? I think we're going to see a new method. And so the technology, this proposal and other proposals will hopefully bring the leaders to negotiate, especially if they've seen what the leadership in China has seen. And I know Mr. Keshe talked about taking this program on the road in a way, Japan, Washington, Iran, and other places. So not only will the leaders see it, but the nationals will see it and demand a change. So this is all working out together. We just have to be patient, work with it, and do our part, and wherever you are and however you fit into this entire structure. And that's for you to decide how we can bring it forward. Any thoughts or comments from anyone? Feel free. We're all hosts here, and we all have microphones. As I said, I thought we'd cover some of what's happening in some of these sessions. There are some public ones. These are public as well, but there's a cost to it. And all 6 sessions can be purchased for $1,650. And you may think, why do I need this? And this is part of the enlightenment, I think. But as Mr. Keshe said, we create the conditions, and then it's up for you to take it the rest of the way, whether you're looking for wellness, looking how to become a better lover. I don't mean physical love, but in this area of giving and understanding a lot more. And then once you've achieved the transmutation, probably first in the dimension of energy, like the dream, but it's interactive, and then going to the full movement of the physicality, perhaps down the road or perhaps sooner. I know Mr. Keshe has said that if you have understood the teachings up to now, and that was a number of workshops ago, you should have already been doing the transmutation. So it's all been taught. It's just our lack of understanding, or as Ed had said earlier, it's us who have denied ourselves our abilities. And this is what's being woken up within us. So this is the series you can sign up for on the foundation. We'll just click on that picture. But eventually it'll reach everyone. I think this is the, okay, there's just that beautiful picture there. But it's something that everyone will participate in the coming times. I think it could be developed into apps or sessions. I'm not sure exactly. And then, of course, there's satellite souls being introduced into this process as well. Seems like the Universal Council is for interactions within the universe. And you'll have the ability to move on this planet as knowledge seekers or satellites, perhaps in a certain way. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work into the mix, but it's something for people to move in this dimension of physicality as I'm understanding it, or perhaps just in the energy phases. I don't know when they'll get into a full transmutation. So as he said, you're transmuting, but not with your physicality. The energies of the universe, you're interacting with the energies of the universe with your energies, and not so much the physicality, or not at all the physicality at this point. And that's why understanding about being abused is important, as he said, that your soul doesn't abuse in the universe, which again, to me, is thinking that the soul is already perfect. Why would it want to abuse anything, as it's not created that way? But it was mentioned in this last workshop. So if no one has anything, I guess we'll start with the beginning one about just understanding some of the abuse we've received from some of the so-called representatives of the creator on this planet, how we've even made flags. I think he started out here to represent certain symbols or certain ideas. And perhaps I will bring up the transcript, and thank you for creating that transcript. And let's see where we are. No, I think we have to go to 26 here. We're just going to back this up. Let's see if we can, whoops, I can get this to scroll. Okay, let's go to about 26, and we're going to hear more about which maybe most of us haven't realized. I don't think otherwise, if you were enlightened to this abuse, you'd probably walk away from it. So this is part of the process of realizing that certain ones that you think are there to guide you or help you or to enlighten you are actually there in an opposite way, in a way to cash out your pocket and your soul. So let's hear what Mr. Keshe, I think we're going to start around here. Maybe it's a little bit farther. Okay. Yeah, I think this is where we start here. Anyone have any comments about this? But apparently we used to be more enlightened than we are today. We've used the zero communication in the past. We've grown our own limbs in the past, and probably have even flown in the past in a way. We know there were flying carpets, but there may have been other things that happened as well. That was just what was written. But let's see if we can catch a little bit of understanding of what's happening in these sessions and why it may be important for you to attend.
So it has never changed. We went from the flag, we went from the places we worshipped, and everything else, we always relied on our environment. But we believed in something above us, the God. And then everybody changed the name in a different way to fit, to suit. Because man never understood his soul is the creator, is connected to the creator. When you look at the name of Islam, again means all language of Middle East means the creator. Islam means has come from the creator. Muhammad chose it deliberately because at the time people understood this is the religion of the creator. That's why they turned to it. Go back to the root of the names. Why you call it Shalom? It's again the same. Why you call it Jerusalem? This all comes from the same name, the God, the creator, where the God of East versus the God of West. The God of West goes with Shalom, which means the peaceful one. When you sit on the West, Jerusalem sits on the west side of the hall before the, what we call the sea, and it was where the peace lands, the land of peace, land where the direction of peace is. So we don't understand, we've forgotten about the root of our language, and those who understood have abused it or used it to dominate us. All the words we talk is all connected, especially in the Middle East and Christianity, Judaism, Islam, is all come around the time when our ancestors understood the creator, and we lost that track. They didn't worship statues, they didn't put a cross up. People used it, were understood it, to put it on. The same when we talk about Suleiman. Suleiman is the same. It comes from the same basic word, which means the one who possesses peace through God. When we say salam, it's the same. It means peace. It means what it came from the language of the past 3, 4, 5,000 years ago, but now it was just a word because we forgot the culture. And those who understand it abused it. And the teaching of Keshe Foundation is to bring this into light. That you understand you are the light. Doesn't matter you live in the East, you live in the West. You rise from one side and you go to the other side. So the teaching of the Keshe Foundation, it brings about the teaching of the past, understanding of the past, the culture, and the present time, and the freedom of man from dimension of physicality. Go and find, now we have the freedom of the internet, about the culture of your language, what the words mean, and how we come to here, and how our rulers and the priests and others have abused even them themselves, not understanding, but knowing that it controls the physicality to control the soul of the man, then it can be done. Man will never find his freedom, the freedom of his soul. The freedom is connection to his creator. Understanding the history of the man, as I said before, everything else could be faked. We made a fake Bible to suit the Romans. We made part of the Quran the same. If we go down into the detail of the Quran, we find out how much of it is made up, doesn't match, doesn't work. And the same worse is with the Jews, and the worse lot the Baha'is and the Buddhists all faked it up. All made fake bigger because they had to match the others. Now that you know the dimension of your soul, nobody can fake it. Because it's for you. You can travel the strength, the fields of the universe. And this is where you have to choose. We create the tools. We bring the dimensions for you to understand how you manage to travel the body of the man in aircrafts, a car and a donkey. Now how you travel the soul of the man on the field, the strength of itself, with no donkey, no aircraft, because it possesses the strength field of the travel, the speed of the soul of the creator.
Now, I don't know if any religious leaders have told you that, because it possesses the strength field of the travel speed of the soul of the creator. It's you who decides where to manifest it. So again, this is bringing an enlightenment. I don't think most people realize they're getting abused. Maybe it feels like it, but they sort of say, gee, it's not supposed to be abuse. It's supposed to be enlightenment or learning or understanding myself better, but it doesn't work out that way. And so this is what Mr. Keshe is highlighting.
Right.
Yes.
So the soul of the creator slowed down to be the soul of the man, right?
I don't know if it did slow down to be the soul of the man. He said he transmuted into you. So you're a slower version of the creator? Or you can't travel at the speed of the creator because it's you have a governor on your soul?
Would you call it the strength, a different kind of strength?
It possesses the strength field of the travel speed of the soul of the creator. I don't think the Pope realizes it, or the Ayatollahs, or the rabbis, or the rest. So I made the man in the image of myself. Or did he just give you a junior version of himself, sort of amateur version of himself, without all the attributes? I don't think so. I think he gave you the whole bundle. He's become you. You are I, as I am you. And this is what we haven't gotten over. Go ahead, someone else.
May I comment on Ike's question?
Please, everyone. Well, this is why we all have
I was
microphones.
called
Thank you.
up.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Mike and Alex and more.
Did you have something else, Ike?
No, I said I was gonna call you up because I know you can break it down too.
Call me up so I can break it down? Okay. Well, first of all, that's a brilliant comment that you made, because this is the realization that we have, is we possess the strength field of the soul of the creator. But in order to manifest, or in order to materialize, yeah, we do have to slow down. So this is a really, really key point, because we are physical dominant in terms of our viewpoint. And so we have actually chosen to our point of view to be from the weakest. The weakest is at the slowest speed. But it's a point of manifestation. And so everything around us is a point of manifestation. The difference between the manifestation and the materialization, it too is the speed. So the materialization and the physicality, it creates different problems because of the crystalline nature. So that imposes a rigidness. But if we deal with the soul of the body, that right away is in a plasma field, and that rigidness is gone. not to say that the interaction of the crystalline formation is gone. It's the rigidness that's gone. And so a lot of people can operate in their physicality because of the soul of the body. But we fail to take into consideration the soul of the man. And so we feel that we don't need that anymore. We feel that we discard that in the same way you could say that it's the way that a baby will discard the placenta, because you don't need that once you manifest into the physicality. The manifestation into the physicality is the materialization. So therefore, once we are remaining in the placenta, we're not in physicality. We're in the plasma reality. This is a key difference, and you've really touched on this, Ike. So I just wanted to bring that up, because the speed and the limitation of the speed reflects the dimension that we operate in. And so that's actually part of the classes that I'm running right now, is to differentiate between that. A lot of people have had the problem of differentiating what is physical and what is plasmatic. And the problem comes from the confusion of the dimensions. So you've really touched on a very important point. So thank you very much, Ike.
So does that mean we traded in the creator for a donkey?
Yeah, exactly.
And now we would like to get it back in a way?
Well,
Never lost it.
what about Jack and the Beanstalk? You know, he traded a cow for seeds.
And it's for each one of us to come to this realization. That's part of what these sessions are producing within the person. Again, he's often said it's for you and no one else, that you realize who you are. Thank you, Ike.
Exactly.
Anyone else?
Carry on, Mike.
Yes.
Carry on, Mark. Doing
Yes.
great.
Okay. Anyone else want to make a comment? So we made a little video earlier today. How would I accept this change? Or yeah, how would I accept the change? And maybe we can hear a little bit about that. I think it starts at minute 35, something like that. So let's see if we can somewhere catch up to this. So once you know more about yourself, how would you accept this change? Would you deny it, or would you start to use it and interact with it and explore it? So let's see if we can, I'm going to turn this down a bit. And let's see if we can follow this somewhere.
Then you understand, as there are no books in the dimension of the soul of the man, no one can cheat and no one can become a rabbi and ayatollahs. We work with both dimensions because we are aware of their weaknesses and aware of the strength of the soul of the man. In the process of the creation, man has to understand this, that not only not to be abused on earth, then when it becomes a traveler of the space, he doesn't allow his soul to become abuser of the others.
Now, that was the part I had mentioned earlier, that not only not to be abused on earth, okay, we're the last man standing, we're realizing who we are, we don't need a ticket to get into heaven, or you're not going to hell. Then when it becomes the travel of the space, he doesn't allow his soul to become the abusers of others. And as he says here, and the second is more important than the first. Why would your soul go out into space and become abuser of the others? Anyone want to fill that in for us? He doesn't allow his soul to become abuser of others. Taking more than you need from others, perhaps? Not giving when others are asking you to give? Is this what he means about abusing the others?
Were you born to be an abuser?
No.
So in order to be born, you had to get here through a sequence that was functional. So to become an abuser, you adopt another sequence, which is also functional, but the purpose is different.
And that's why he
One,
said, I can't allow you to go out into space until you feel that love of Mitra, till you become that lover. This idea of thinking, speaking, and acting good. Because apparently there could be points where you could come into this having the ability, or you're in a certain position where you could abuse the others. This is what it seems like to me. We need to be looking out for that. I thought it was all.
yeah, well, of course, Mark.
Yeah.
Mark, we have to learn how to do this on Earth.
Correct. But the
Okay,
second is more important than the first. But yes, I think
oh,
it's a
because
path.
that's the test.
Yep.
No, that's the test. You know, how well did we learn the lesson?
Right. And I guess if you don't learn it well, you get sent back to the first class again till you learn more. Or
Okay, but what is
yeah.
possible?
Say again, please.
Why is this possible? So going back to Ike's question, if we have a reduction in speed, and so what is the ultimate speed? So that would be the strength of the creator. Would you agree?
Yes, nothing can match the magnetic fields of the creator. And you don't travel, you arrive. There's no sense of moving.
Exactly.
You appear.
So if we have the sense of time and of moving, then we are at a reduced speed.
Right. Nothing matches the speed of the magnetic fields of the creator.
So if there's a reduction in speed, then it allows an opportunity that is not available at the highest speed, what we call instantaneous transmutation.
Well, if you're at a reduced speed, I would think you'd be in a UFO or some other sort of device.
Well, exactly. So what that means is that we have an opportunity to delay consequences at the reduced speed. So in other words, the morality at the instantaneous transmutation is not transmuted automatically to the slower dimensions. So be it a plasmatic manifestation or a physical materialization, it introduces a delay in consequences.
Right. It won't be instantaneous from New York to Beijing. It may take 5 minutes.
Right, right. And this is the key point. So did we forecast the abuse of the delay in consequences? Because the delay has some real benefits, you know. It's like I didn't finish the work, and so I need some extra time. Okay, so let's delay the deadline to allow for that to happen. I'm just using that as an example, as a benefit of a delay in consequences. But we abuse the delay in consequences. In other words, to say, well, I'm going to borrow some money from you, and I'll pay you next week. And so there's nothing wrong with that. That's a benefit of delay in consequences. But comes next week and you say, oh, I can't pay you. I'm going to need more time. Well, was that an abuse, or was that a result of things that got involved in the meantime? So if the original intention was to borrow the money and never pay you back, but fool you to say, well, I'll pay you back next week, that's where the abuse comes in. But if the intention was truly to pay you back, and then consequences happened that caused you not to be able to pay that back, so that wouldn't be abuse on your part. But what we have is a case on this planet where people actually sabotage you to put you in a position where it appears that you're abusing that delay in consequences. So in other words, you have promised in the future to do something, and then someone knows about that promise, and then what they turn around and they sabotage you to make sure that you fail. That's an abuse as well. So you have looked at the delay in consequences as a benefit for you, and someone else has looked at your taking advantage of the delay in consequences as being a benefit for them, because now they can seek an advantage which wasn't there before, because you've put yourself in a position of commitment, and by sabotaging your commitment, they get the benefit. And that clearly is the difference in the way different countries around this world operate.
But he's
Back-
talking about abuse in space, in the dimension of energy, I think, not in the dimension of physicality. But anyway, thank you. Would anyone else want to add? Or Alex, would you want to explain more?
Well, first of all, the space includes all of space.
Okay.
Okay, so the space of physicality is part of space.
Okay, good. Shall we go back to it?
Yes, sir.
We continue on.
And the second is more important than the first, because here on the physical dimension, you're abuse. Going through this process of understanding, going through this process of what I call completion of the process, we gradually brings you to the point that you will see, you will understand that the others will see you so. And when you come back to the dimension of physicality, then you believe you have that. It's so much when you're hypnotized, you do things you don't believe can be done. When they show you the video of what you've done, you say, this is not me, I didn't do this. Or when we allow the soul of the man to take over, and then we video it, and then we say, no, I could not do that. As I said to you, I did that deliberately in a few cases where we were involved in getting a woman who has more or less no brain, where the soul part was not touched, to walk. And when she sat on the bed, we showed the video, she said, I cannot walk. I said, this is your video, walk it. Because we walk the soul, not the physicality. And the soul takes over the dimension of physicality.
So this is what's happening in these sessions. The soul is taking over the dimension of physicality, I think, in a way, if you have an interactive session. It's not the physicality, but it's the soul of physicality. They're putting these two together in a way.
We showed that with Naomi in the hospital, as I said before. So we know how to get the soul of the man to change the physicality. And as I said, we are not magicians. We never show magic. We explain what we do, then you understand. And in that process, is for you to understand the strength of your soul. And once you understand that the strength goes back to the ethos of Mitra, think good with it, talk good with it, and act good with it. Because even the souls think and talk and do things. The soul has a soul, soul has a structure, and this is how you communicate.
Is that a new point? Because even the souls think and talk and do things must be amongst themselves in a way. The soul has a soul. Soul has a structure, and this is how you communicate. Is there a soul within the soul, or is that the soul of the creator, which your soul is built above and on top of?
And in that process, you show the manifestation of your beauty. Our job as teachers is for you, for us, to both understand the value of the knowledge of the creation. For all of us to understand the dimension of the creation in both dimensions of the physicality, be it on this planet, on the moon, another position in the universe, but the same soul. Just because you wear a clothes of a monkey does not make you a monkey, does it? Because inside is you. When you go to another dimension and your physicality change, the soul is still your soul, irrespective of dimension, position. And this is why we brought in the transmutation. Which means up you now, you transferred, you traveled, now you transmute. You travel in the body of the man, you transfer the body of the man from one place to another, in another box or whatever. Now you learn to transmute, which means travel with the strength of the energies of the universe, with your energy and not your physicality.
Anyone question that? Now you learn to transmute, which means travel with the strength of the energies of the universe with your energy and not your physicality. So this is what's happening in these sessions. You're learning to transmute with the strength of the energies of the universe with your energy and not your physicality. So that's what we saw in the Ubisos units in Linz. People were on the moon, but their physicality was still in the system. So this is what I think he means with the transmutation in the dimension of energies. And then we'll pick up the full transmutation in time, maybe a very short time. So if this would be an interactive, you want to go to planet X and you don't know what's on planet X, you don't want to bring your physicality there, I would think. You would explore it in the dimension of energies and see if you feel comfortable. Is this a place you want to be? Is this something you'd like to experience? And there's millions or trillions of points to do this. So you can go and explore, and if it's a place you may want to manifest your physicality, you can do that. But right now we're exploring the strength of the energies of the universe mixed with your energies and not your physicality.
Then it comes the point. How would I accept the change? How would I not be frightened of what I see? Denying my own existence, without wound in the strength I appear, or what I've done, or what I control, I end up to be a stone. And somebody takes a picture, you were not there, you transmuted, you're a stone. That is.
And I think this will be one of the biggest, in a way, adjustments you're going to need when you actually do the full transmutation and become something else, but with the same soul of physicality and the same soul of the man, and perhaps the physicality even within that structure. But this will be quite hard to accept. I know Mr. Keshe said that the first times he's done that, it took a bit of time to adjust, saying, this is not me, this is not my arm, these are not my legs. You have to get used to it. So there's a frightening aspect in some of this, in a way. But once we get used to it in the dimension of energy, I think the dimension of physicality, it being done, won't be so frightening. That's just my thoughts. Anyone else want to add anything else? You're all going to do it one way or another. Again, the default position is a star. But if you learn to play, you can be the soul of the man and experiencing many, many different positions and existences throughout the universe. Just my thinking at this point. And again, these are knowledges that have been hidden for generations. We continue with this. What?
Stone is you. Now you understand the teaching says even the stone has a soul, because it's you who has changed so that the stone. Now we come to another point and dimension of understanding. Now that you have this knowledge, what are you? What are you?
Sorry, it was supposed to say, and what are you going to do with it? So we're in the initial stages of this very profound ability that we all have. We just have to open it up more and more. And that's why I thought we'd go a little bit deeper into these sessions and try to understand what is actually happening to those who participate in it, and maybe for those who don't even participate in it. I know with the public session, he said you needed to be there to experience it. You won't get it on the recording. But eventually, I would think after 6 months of going into it this year for the first 6 sessions, it'll probably get opened up either through an app or a different way to make it, instead of 100 people being, there'll be 1,000 and then 10,000 and the rest of it. This is what I think he means when he said you were going to upgrade the whole lot in one go, or more or less, not in a single day, but in a short period of time. Okay. Any thoughts or questions before we go to our next little bit of understanding about the ubisos. Let's just move it up to right about there. And then we'll just move our transcript down. I think it makes it much easier to understand what's being said as we read the words. Okay, we're right in this area here. So let's start this, and he explains a little bit more about this ubisos, or the Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit. That's what we saw in the beginning in that bumper, and we'll play it at the end, where the transmutation and transportation of the physicality and the soul of the man is within the system. And of course, you are that system. We're just learning how to be that system. Things are being activated, points are being connected that we sort of forgotten. So that's what these systems are bringing you. Really, freedom on the planet and freedom in the space as well. That we start using the correct behavior in both dimensions.
On the other hand, if you listen to the system just explaining about the visas, the visas are set to do both jobs, to do the transmutation and, as you can see, physical flight. It depends how they are set to do, and this is what we are doing now. The physical side of the transportation of the visas is already done, is with the what are called the authorities, governments who have already tested it. And now we are testing, in a way, the transmutation side of it.
So I actually missed that when I was going through the workshops. The physical side of the transportation of the ubisos is already done. It is with what I call the authorities, governments who have already tested it. So the physical side of the transportation is already done. As he said, you can add a couple bits into that flight system and it will physically fly. And you can extend it to include 1,000, 500, 2,000 or more people within it. So apparently this idea of flying this is already with the authorities, with the governments who have already tested it. And again, they do share intergovernmentally many things that are kept from their nationals. That's probably a part of the agreement. We're going to show you this, but don't share it on national television, at least at this point. Any thoughts about this? He just, again, I think sometimes that the governments have seen more than the actual knowledge seekers have seen.
Which we started.
And they governments don't know how it's done, but they know it works. They might have even taken a trip on some of these transportation systems that the ubisos provides. Imagine going to Washington from Beijing in 5 minutes, or San Francisco, or vice versa. Don't know if that's happened yet, but maybe they have certain test pilots and certain advanced flight systems who were ready for this, but anyone can get on it and do it. I don't think you need any training whatsoever.
And the first people in Junoplast in 2022, when they went in the system, they went to the moon, they went to the oceans, and we did the first trips through the soul at that time. Now you understand. So we have fulfilled.
Again, trips, the first trips through the soul. We heard of the woman who became a half mermaid and half woman and was swimming in the ocean. Again, the first trips through the soul. This is the dimension of energy, the dimension of the creator, the dimension of universe.
What we promised. And these things will go to further extent and what I call explanation of the dual purpose of the systems like Ovisos. You can travel with them the span of the universe in a system, or you can travel with them or transmute with them, both dimensions within the same system. And now we are going through the transmutation training, and as we explained, we showed that knowledge is reaching a point that transmutation can be done, and a complete transmutation now is within the reach of the Keshe Foundation.
So both dimensions are available within the Ubisoft unit, but right now we're just doing the transmuting in the dimension of energy, like the dream state, which we call it a dream, but it's actually the work of the soul, but also can move the physicality. This is why we don't need the borders. We don't need individual nations. And I'm sure if nations were allowed to develop, you feel much more comfortable in your nation, although there's a lot of places to explore as well. And I can see where, as he said in the past, that this idea of tourism will become one of the main businesses, not only here, but in space. I call it a business, maybe that's just for this point in time. But this will allow people to go back and forth, even to live in different ends of the planet and work in the other end and be able to be there within minutes, within seconds. So this is why there'll be no need for borders. There'll be no need for states in a way. And this is what we're coming to understand. It's going to make this planet quite a smaller planet in so many ways, where you'll be able to reach any point basically instantaneously.
What you see, what we showed, is the dimension of the, what I call, the soul of all those who participated. That even they say we didn't feel anything, we can show you exactly. If any of you jumped out, you would have seen, we saw the change, because many of you get frightened of these conditions. And that bleep of yellow line is nearly 1.5 to 2 minutes. Our screen covers 4 minutes. So it wasn't a blip, a few seconds. And the next one is even longer than this. And a parallel system to bring the soul of physicality, the soul of the man, the physicality of man in line, we can do for 4 minutes, 3-4 minutes. We can now extend it to hours. And these are important in the future wellness system structures, that where we can bring the soul of the man in that position and allow for it to process itself from any diseases in the space.
So apparently you do pick up energies, and that's part of the horizontal unit, but now maybe it can be done. As he said, we only need one system. So if you do pick up any energy packages, it will allow it to process itself from any disease in space. I know he's often said the universal community suffers from the same diseases as man. It's hard to really fathom that, but he did say that at one point in time.
This is how we will reach the man in the space, and how we'll extend that to go beyond the levels of the space travel. And hopefully in the, what I call, the invitation we sent to all of you who participated in last Friday to participate in the next Friday, we try to extend this, what's it called, physical no motion transmutation, to as long as possible. we try to see if we can extend it to 6 to 10 minutes.
So that's what I mean. When you get into this position and you're there for 6 to 10 minutes, it's going to start to become ingrained within you that you can do this. This is possible. And little keys, I think, are being put in to allow you to do this. Now they can extend it up to hours. So there's a lot going on in the background, even though it's not fully explained. But you've heard some of the testimonies from a number of people that things have changed within their physicality, within their emotions. And usually, if you sign up for one of these sessions, there's usually a companion session that goes with it a week or two after. So you're actually participating in 2 sessions where you're not paying for the second session. And again, it's to help develop yourself, but also to help develop the system, which is important to extend it to more and more people.
And then in the monthly transmutation, which are set up, again, we have a limitation in number of people we can accept. There's a limit, and we start with that limit. Our limit last week was 100, and we took the 100. We can't allow any more in. So if you're participating in the next 6 months transmutation, once we receive the limit, even some people sent us the funds for registration, we send the funds back. We're here to develop a structured scientific basis, and all has to be done in one go. We're taking people who come in for the whole session of the 6 months because we're developing them very rapidly to go through the transmutation, and then hopefully some of you in learning it become the teachers, the next cycle of teachers in the Keshe Foundation, teaching how to transmute souls.
So there's going to be some new teachers, it sounds like. Some of you in learning, you become the teachers. The next cycle of, we're all students and we're all teachers. So let's just start with that. Absolutely. But the next teachers in the next cycle of the Keshe Foundation teaching how to transmute souls. And this process has started, and we have managed to reach that point. This is, I think, where the satellite souls come in, or part of it, along with the Universal Council. Let's hear more. Anyone want to make a comment about any of this? Okay, we continue. Feel free. No one's wrong and no one's right, as he said earlier.
And this process has started. We have managed to reach that point, and again, we have put a limitation on the number of people who will go through this process, and the sessions to come has a specific pattern of transmutation, and by small distances across the planet and the other bits, and then in the second part of the year, when our systems come to full complete development, hopefully in the section, then we go for the physical transmutation. We are getting ready for it. Development is getting done, and we see how you develop. So those of you who want to join these 6 sessions, I'm sure within the next 2-3 weeks it will be complete. And if we receive any more, as many of you have seen in the past session of last week, we send your funds back because we have a limit, we have a seal. And once we reach it, we don't pass it, because then we can't control it. On the other hand, we still carry on with our development of the technology on the physical side. And I know many of you have reported back to us that you received the first half of your communication bundle, please, those of you who receive it, till we don't receive all of you, the first batch of the second part will not go out. So when the, what we call our people come back to work in the second week of January, once we have the confirmation from all of you who the units has been sent to, that you received it, you confirm to us, we send the second batch out. And then by January, February, we keep on doing the what we call these communication bundles in sets of 10 till we complete it somewhere in next 2 or 3 months for the orders we received. And then we go to the next phase. And then we go through the, what we call bringing in those of you who are satellites and the rest into the process of the, what we call communication and the rest.
So there's something to do with these satellites. We're bringing in those of you who are satellites and the rest in the process. So there's more things being added to this whole development process, or enlightenment process, perhaps we should call it. That we become aware of our own energies, our own capabilities. This is enlightenment. That you're open to even more knowledges above that. Let's continue a bit.
Not any questions?
Yes, first of all, Gerhard had a question in the Q&A regarding the sessions. He says he got the email about the second session will be held on the 12th of January, 2024. And he's mentioning that you were saying something about it being next week. And can you clarify this point? Is it
It's
to
the
be on the
12th of
12th?
January. It's
Okay.
not next Friday, the Friday after.
Right.
Right, so anyone who was in the 22nd session should be invited to the session of the 12th of January, as it's a continuing or sort of a similar session to what has gone on the 22nd, as I understand it. But the ones who've made a lot of noise, apparently there's something with making noise in these sessions that's important not to make noise. So as he explained in the graph, if there was a lot of talking, and they've seen it before, that I guess the graph collapsed because there was too much noise in the physicality. So if you go into these sessions, try to find a location that's quiet, that you won't be disturbed. And I know there's unforeseen things if someone comes to your door or there's an emergency and the rest of it, but try to be conscious of your microphones, because it has quite a large impact, it seems, in these sessions. Mr. Keshe has asked people to please watch your mics, and even to the point where they have to put you in a separate room without a mic, in a way, until you quiet down. Steph has asked anybody who has received the headphone of the bundle. I'm not sure. I'm not aware of anyone who's received it. Anyone here receive it? They want to mention it? The communication bundle? Okay, I know a number of them went out, and a number will be going out pretty regularly. I guess they make them in lots. So they may produce 10 or 20 and they go out. But it will continue when it goes into the mass production of these, if there will be head units of this sort, or it'll be moved into apps of some way. I don't know the whole plan. I only know a very small percentage of it. Let's just continue a little farther. Anyone have any thoughts or comments? Have you received any communication bundles? Okay.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, sorry, you're correct. My mind is ahead of time. Yeah, so no, it is on the 12th of January. As you've seen, we have reached the point of transmutation. And now we go through the second phase. It won't be exactly the same, but it'll be a further development to extend the time of transmutation. And then we're trying to find a way that We don't need to have the translators to translate halfway to take so much time. And those of you who join in this session after next, what they call it, 12th of January, and the rest, we try to communicate with you on the, what we call the chat line, that we don't need to talk anymore. So when you come in, keep an eye on the chat line, that there will be no more communication to disturb the flow of the, what we call the fields as we come in and we tell.
So very interesting. That disturbance has some sort of effect on the fields, it seems. You would think it doesn't, but apparently, I know Mr. Keshe said that many times when people used to have microphones in the Knowledge Seekers workshop. It seemed to interrupt if someone inadvertently opened their mic and made a noise. I did that, and so on and so forth. It interrupts his train of communication, I guess, with the wherever he's delivering this from, if it's happening that way. I know he doesn't write it down. He said he doesn't prepare anything. He just goes into the session and, in a way, downloads it. And even to the point where he said he had to go listen to the workshop because he doesn't know even what he said sometimes in these workshops. He had to go hear what he said. So there's another process that's taking place through the universe and through Mr. Keshe, I think, in the Knowledge Seekers. So that's why it's important with the microphones, extremely important. And we're just sort of educating you, so when you do go into the sessions, there'll be less surprises, perhaps.
Sorry, I have a question.
Of course.
What do you think? Maybe the next sessions will be 6 or 10 hours or 12 hours and longer. Do you have to meditate all this time, or you cannot meditate 12 hours, or what? Can you do other things with your headphones and
Well, maybe the 1 and 2 hour sessions are getting you prepared for the 5 and 6 hour sessions.
okay,
You
and
know,
12
we
hours.
want to run the marathon, so we start with a mile or two and we build up from there, perhaps. But almost like a surgery in a way. You know, some surgeries are pretty quick. In an hour, you're in and out of the operating room. But in other surgeries, depending on how delicate and where they have to go within the body, it can take 6 hours or 8 hours to complete that process.
Okay, that means that you have to concentrate really 12 hours if you...
I'm not saying that. He said all you have to do is listen. But you're going to have to keep control of your physicality in a way.
Okay.
This is just the way I'm seeing it. And again, I'm no expert at this.
Yeah, was just a question.
Yeah. But that means I think more things are happening in those sessions, or they're tying some of the things that went on in the previous sessions into these longer sessions in a way. In other words, something was done in the past and now it's ready to be, another part is ready to be added into it. And again, he says we're controlling everything in the background. Again,
And
it's
every
up to
session,
you. It's up to you which, you know, if you want to take advantage of this, or, you know, if you're able to take advantage of it in a way and help develop the system and experience this new dimension. This is what he's saying, to enlighten us into a new dimension about ourselves. We're experts in the physicality, but this other dimension, we're kind of infants in a way, even though we go through it every night when we dream. Happening in the physicality may be a little bit apprehensive until you get used to it. Like walking the tight wire, you know, the first time you fall off, second time it's quite scary. But after you've been doing it for a while, it's quite easy to walk a tightrope. I've never done it, but it looks easy.
Yeah, and it's on a Friday, and I think not every people has free time.
Mhm. Yeah, it'll all get opened up more and more once the system, or once the ones that are going through this are set up in a way, or processed in a way that they can go through the transmutation. And then once they show it, I think everyone will be clamoring to be a part of this, if it reaches the public domain. And if not, then you have it for yourself until the time comes when you will teach it to the others. Because we all can do it.
Yep.
Same thing he said about the radiation. We're all able to absorb it. It's just we need to, and I'm not saying to practice anything with radiation. It's not something I don't think you practice with. But we all have that ability to absorb and convert it into energies we can use. All right, I think we'll go to the final clip that I had picked out. It's near the end. Let's go to,
Mark, before you go,
oh, please, anyone. Yes, go ahead,
I just want to go back to the question that
please.
was asked about the concentration.
Yep.
So to answer that question, I'll ask a question. And that question is do you have to concentrate when you're sleeping?
Nope. And that's what he said. The physicality wasn't involved in this process. You could go to sleep, you could be driving your car, you could be washing the dishes or cleaning your house. The physicality is not part of this at this point in time, as I understand it.
Okay, she's written something in the. She's
Perfect.
written something. No, I gotta find it. What has she written in the chat?
All right, I can go with my dog, just hearing.
Well, yes, yes, you could. So the example that I want to draw is that when you go for a walk, are you fully concentrating on walking with the dog, or are you doing some daydreaming?
Some daydreaming.
Yeah, and so what constitutes daydreaming, and what is the difference between that and night dreaming?
Yeah, it's the same, I think. And it was just my idea. I can go for a walk with my dog, and that's my meditation. And so I can hear just, but I don't make noise. I don't have to make noises. That's the problem.
No, that's true, but I think okay. Let me draw another example, because I want to tie into a point that Mark brought up earlier as well, and so that had to do with why do we have to keep quiet at these sessions? So if you want to go to sleep and the room is very noisy, I would assume that it's going to be difficult for you to fall asleep, right? You'd be agitated with all the noise. Would you agree with that?
No, for me not. But I think for the most people, I can sleep everywhere, in a disco, whatever. But I think for the normal people, it's okay, yes. I agree with you.
Okay, so then the second question is if you are asleep, can I come and shake you to awake you?
You must shake very hard.
Okay, but it is possible.
It is possible, yes, but I don't hear any noise, and yeah, I'm really in a deep sleep.
Okay, but if you're in a deep sleep and I'm trying to wake you up and you're not responding, then maybe I have to shake you harder.
You're right.
Okay, so I mean, the house is on fire and I need to wake you up to get you out of there, right? So I'm going to shake you as hard as I can, right?
That's right.
Now, if you are dead in a coffin and I want to wake you up,
Mhm.
can I shake you to wake you?
Sorry, when I'm dead,
Yes, in a coffin.
what means a coffin?
A casket. You know, when you go to a funeral home and the
Yes,
body.
okay, okay. No, you can't shake me because my soul is anywhere and my body isn't responding.
Okay. So the answer to the question then is,
Mm.
what is the difference between the noise interfering with us at these sessions and the full transmutation of the soul? And so the answer comes in that we are not in full transmutation.
Mhm.
We're in partial transmutation. So,
Yeah.
so in other words, if we're sleepy and we want to go to sleep, but it's very noisy, we're already into a partial transmutation. And then if we succeed in going to sleep, then we're already in a partial transformation. But we would be susceptible to being awoken through an intense physical interaction. But if we're totally gone, then that physical interaction is impossible. And so I think this is the thing. At
Yeah,
this point in time, these sessions are not total transmutation sessions. They're partial transmutation sessions.
Mhm.
So does that make sense?
That makes sense. Thanks very much. I got it.
How are we doing, Mark? Is that okay?
That's perfect. Jacko said, Mr. Keshe never meditated. Enlightenment comes if we allow our soul to open up. That's all it needs. Yes, anyone can do it. Absolutely.
Exactly.
He said this many, many times. You don't need any of these systems to do this. But there must be a reason he's building these systems and putting the knowledge seekers or inviting the knowledge seekers to take part in this. Otherwise, he would have gone on a direct route of teaching it. So there must be something more going on with these systems. And again, the Buddha knew how to do it, but he didn't know how to teach it, as I understand Mr. Keshe explained. Christ also knew how to do it, but he showed it, but I don't know if he had any time to teach it in a way. But the Buddha could do it, but didn't know how to teach it. So there's something about being able to understand this and teaching this. Even though some can do it, apparently they do not know how to teach it. And this is what's going to come out of these systems as well. The people that are able to do this will become the new teachers in the new cycle to teach the others. So this is the new cycle of teachers that are coming out in time and with the assistance of systems, I would think. But maybe not. Maybe these satellites will make it possible for others to do it without the system, or they're going to be connected directly into the system and kind of be a guidepost or a transfer point or some sort of repeater for the energies in a way to make sure the traveler arrives at their destination. Not sure. So we'll continue where Mr. Keshe sort of winds it up here and explains a little bit more. So now, hopefully, everyone has a better understanding of what is happening in these sessions. But again, everyone experiences something different. And the main thing is they're not looking for what happens to you in the sessions. They're looking for what changes it's brought in your physicality, your emotions, your interactions with others. What things have changed in a day, a week, a month, or even longer once these energies sort of get absorbed and interacted within your system. You may find you're much more friendlier to the neighbor who has dumped things on your property or who has done other things that's annoyed you in a way. or perhaps your own family, your own children, your own work environment. This is what they're looking for, the changes that it's bringing to you, not so much what you experience in the system. And this is what we're going to hear about now.
Couple of questions in the Q&A here. Actually, there's a testimonial from Liz New, who says, I attended on the Thursday session with headsets, and what I can tell is that my dreams are changed as I feel I interact consciously on each one of my dreams. Thank you. And there is also a comment in German from Kurt, who translated says, hello, Mr. Keshe. If we were on this straight line that you showed us from the Friday session, as in outside the body, we could heal through the soul. Thank you very much. And I guess that's more of a statement than a question. So we seem to have a couple of people that have successful results, let's say, from the session. But then Trevor in the Q&A says, Mr. Keshe said earlier, you have to go inside to find what you are denying your soul with. For those saying they didn't feel anything in the session, what are we looking for? Our bad behaviors? How the love in our life can get interpreted. Interpreted. Yes, that's the word.
That's the word. The thing is, don't look at time in the sessions.
Steph, maybe he's addressing your question here about this time factor. He's saying, don't look at the time in the sessions. I remember in the past, he says, you may wait 2 or 3 hours for the soul to move, and just to put in that little bit or another piece of something within you, or connect something. And that would take place in maybe a nanosecond or something along that line. So again, he's saying, and again, who would not question going into a session for 6 hours or 8 hours? I know he said they'll keep it open until the last one leaves, but it does look like it's a longer operation or process that's going on here. But he's saying, don't look at the time of it.
Look at what changes in your life from that time. Is that how you feel in that 1, 2, 3, 4 hours or in the session? It's what changes in your life from there on that you can notice, and then realize that is connected to the change, to the session. As one of the knowledge seekers was saying, it's so clear how I changed after the session that I don't need to feel what I felt in the session. What changes brought to my life is important to me. Because we call it subconscious, we call it whatever, but that is the part that we bring in to our lives after each encounter. Doesn't matter in these sessions or you go to a temple or whatever. And this is the beauty of it, is subtleness of it. Years ago.
So that's part of the beauty of this. You may not feel anything going into these systems, but you may notice changes in the day, weeks, months that follow. And this is what they're looking for. This is what we're hoping you'll notice about these changes in your physical dimension. It sounds like at this point, or at least in this part of the workshop.
When we used to do a lot of wellness research with a lot of people, and they used to bring they come and say, I apologize. I forgot to drink. I don't know what it is, but this past weeks I haven't drank enough or don't use my breathing system anymore. And I said, that's fantastic. Can you bring them back? But what has anything changed? Oh yes, this. So it's like when you're hungry, you don't need it. When your system is complete, when you don't need it, you have brought the change. The body doesn't need it. Why do you want to use it? And this is a process. What does these sessions bring you afterwards? Not what you feel in that session. Did you go anywhere? But next week, next day, next month, has your feeling towards your partner changed? Has your feeling towards other people changed? Has your trust about yourself has changed? Have you suddenly started changing the way you clothe, the way you talk, the way you feel? What is your art or outlook for your future has changed? These are where these things come in. It's not just, oh, I felt, I traveled, I went to there. And this is what I keep on saying. We listen to your stories. But when you tell us the story, it means you're taking the journey. We look what happens after the journey. I moved into a new city. What happened after that? Did you get a job? Did you do what happened? I traveled somewhere and I saw this. Still the same memories. I cooked from the city I went to and the rest of it and blah blah. We are not interested in the trip. The interesting is what happened to you, how you change your life through your soul afterwards. If you can record that, then something has changed in the session. It doesn't matter if you felt something, you did feel tinkling in my fingers. I went to see the grandpa. I always say, we listen because you did the journey. We listen to your journey. But how did you feel when you met the grandpa? What did he tell you? As many people say, they sat and they sorted the problems they had with their mother who died, and they start a new cycle of life. That's what that session when you saw the grandma does. And then you know you can access that. Next time you want to sort out the problem you had with a son which is alive in another city, you go to his soul, picks the phone up, Dad. Oh, I knew you were going to call me because I'll send you my love. This is what this is about, not how you felt and it tingled your toes and my head went somewhere else and I tripped somewhere else. This is all good, but what changes bring to your life? Many of you, many knowledge seekers, what we read, they sent us, has brought them fundamental change. They are in charge of, they are in control of, they enjoy the change. And that's what life is about. To understand another dimension in your life.
So hopefully this is becoming clearer and clearer to understand another dimension in your life. This is what is getting opened up for all of us to start considering playing in both dimensions. We never thought we could play, but we have been playing in this other dimension. Now we're going to experience it consciously and connect through the soul to others. You have a problem with the son, as he said, you go through the soul. I'm thinking of Ed's video when the baby cries and you don't know what's wrong. You touch his soul somehow. And this is what we're learning partially to do, amongst other things. So that was the review of part of this workshop, even though we can't give it full justice because there's so much in there and there's so many things. Jaco says, yes, after certain times you start feeling souls, smelling smoke on a big distance, interconnection of souls. Love of the Creator is the common denominator. Thank you, Jaco. So this is what's happening to many who are going through these systems, and everyone has a different experience. Depends what you want to do with it. As he said, we just create the pool. Let's just see. I'm not sure when that is up here. Yeah, okay, we just heard that. We just create the pool. And it's up to you to decide whether you want to put a toe in it. And again, it's a little bit frightening, as he said in the session, that the third time people were frightened to go back into this dimension. I don't quite remember that, but he said a lot of people were frightened. And that will come in the transmutation as well. If you go to China, want to speak the language and understand the history and the rest of it, you may have to appear, if you go through transmutation, as a Chinese individual, where if you took the transportation route that put all of you in it, you would arrive as you are. But then you couldn't speak the language, you wouldn't understand the customs and the rest of it. So it might be more beneficial to do the full physical transmutation, although you may have to see yourself as a different individual. And maybe this, even though it's still a human being, it doesn't look like me, but maybe that's part of getting used to full transmutation on other positions and places in the universe. I can handle being a human, but maybe from a different nationality. And that will build up into becoming a tree or something else in a different environment, or a creature that exists in a different environment. You'll be able to handle it. Where if we just did that to you and you became a creature with 100 legs and no arms, you would have a real hard time with it. So maybe that's part of us getting used to transmutation. Here we appear as another human. Maybe you'd appear exactly as you are. I'm not fully sure. But part of that, where the soul of the nation is teaching you the customs and the languages and the rest, you may have to manifest yourself in that nationality. But it will certainly give you comfort to know that you can do it in the bigger realm of the universe. And maybe you appear as a gas or a stone or a tree, and you can handle that. Again, I think if we just transmuted you into something on another planet, you'd probably sort of have a freak out in a way if you weren't used to it or understand it in a deeper way. So that's what's happening. And again, you're invited to participate in these sessions. It's never been offered to humanity before. This is the first time ever. And then again, no one can touch you in the physicality. No one can touch you in space. As we
But didn't we do that transformation in the womb, Mark? Look how many different stages what we call a baby goes through.
Yeah, no question. And then you went from the water breather to the air breather.
So I think it's just a matter of remembering how to do it. We've done it before, otherwise we wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm. Right. So slowly, it's all being brought in for each as an individual in a way. And then he talked about collectively traveling. So this is something else that's getting set up in a way. Perhaps 10, 20, 100 people will go to a certain place or location all together. This is very possible too. And that's part of the development, I think, of the system, to bring it into a perfect system, even though he said newer systems, didn't he say newer systems are being developed? Let's see, or was that in the last clip? That it won't take as long for these processes to happen in the newer systems that are being developed. Or maybe I picked that up somewhere else. Okay, very good. So that's what's happening. This is part of the process mankind is going through now to get to this upgraded position where we get out of the cage of physicality on our own terms in a way. That we're not going to be stuck. We're going to know there's another option for us to use. And again, it's gaining an aspect of immortality once you learn the transmutation. As he said, a 90-year-old man leaves, goes out into the universe, and comes back and can live here for another 5 or 10,000 years. Again, this has never been opened up to mankind. So they're coming in to curb the abuse, to teach you who you are, and that you'll walk away from those kind of abuses. But it's ingrained in us pretty deeply over the generations and so on. But there still must be generations that also didn't worship statues or stones and the rest. So those souls are there. So they probably understand it in times past, and they're within you. Or a fingerprint of them perhaps is within you. So I think this will work out quite nicely. Slowly, we bring you into it. Anyone want to make any further comments before we go to creating the Dome of Peace, which is about this time? Of course, the Universal Council invites the Keshe family and the Universal Council family in unifying at the soul level every day at 21 p.m. CET for the elevation of all souls and the protection of the physicality in the universe. So this is where people are joining together on the soul level. The Universal Council is learning this as well. But this will help us and help others to practice using their energies. It's not a meeting in Zoom. It's not a meeting in Telegram. It's just a meeting at the soul level. I also wanted to bring this other one up where you can join the Brazilian intentions, who's they're really leading the way as I see it. They're having intentions every day. They're meeting on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. for the elevation of the international atomic energy and those working for peace in Vienna. But you can also join daily intention at 1 a.m. CET or 2 a.m. CEST. So you can find the link here. So you can join them and start practicing. Again, if you want to stay in the physicality, that's up to you. If you want to explore another dimension, which you have, you're welcome to join these. And every little bit builds in a way. And I think there's discussion. Would anyone like to tell us what actually goes on in the Wednesday or the daily intentions? Maybe people would feel a little more comfortable. I thought Jefferson was here, or Claudia. Would you like to say anything about these sessions of bringing peace through the dimension of energies rather than using our physicality to muscle through it, let's say?
Hello, Mark. Hello, everybody.
Yes. Are these long sessions, like 6 hours or 5 hours, or what sort of time frame are these
It's
sessions?
more, normally it's 30 minutes, 35 minutes.
Oh, beautiful. That's just like having lunch with you.
Yeah, it's like a part of our lives. 9 p.m. in Brazil, we open the Telegram and connect to the people that's praying for a peace in this planet. That's it.
And the daily intention is similar?
Yes. No, I was saying the daily intentions, what they are talking.
Okay. And then you have a Wednesday intention, and anyone can join.
Oh, it's the same.
It's
the
not
same. It's 30 minutes.
right.
And it's 2 p.m. in Brazil. That's 6 p.m. on CT time.
Right. And it's not exclusively for the Brazilian community. It's open to everyone.
Everyone. I think Shweta always enjoy Wednesday and with the Brazilian community.
Beautiful.
But it's for everybody. Yes.
As Mr. Keshe said, he'll handle the physicality end of the peace negotiations, and it's for us to practice using our energies. And I think the Brazilians have been leading in that effect in a way. And I think they'll be using the soul that they've created in that group to do other things in the future, for sure. As
Yes.
Jaco said, now we do it all the time. Happy New Year to all of you. It is
Yes, Happy New Year.
enlightening. I think that's the best part of the new year. We're becoming enlightened. What a gift. As Mr. Keshe said, we've given you the biggest gift this season to understand more about ourselves, the explanation of Mitra, the ability to connect with one another, so many different things. So we've been given these huge gifts that mankind has never thought about. They thought about the presents they got or the presents they gave. And then it's just another year of the same old in a way. Even though we all start out very powerfully wishing for things, but somehow the physicality encroaches and we get back into pretty much the very similar routine. But now we're understanding a whole new dimension of ourselves and the universe, which we always thought we needed a rocket to get into and the rest of it. So these are huge gifts from the Keshe Foundation, and it's for all of us. And you'll be the teachers in the next cycle of this process as you go through it. So why don't we take a few minutes and go through this? Creating the Dome of Peace. And as Jaco said, it's not just once a time, do it all the time. And you can do that. You can be working and you can be elevating the soul of the planet simultaneously. The same way they're doing it in the sessions, in the monthly sessions, where the physicality is not really included in this process at this point in time. So let's go to creating the Dome of Peace, which is today is the day that people spray. And again, you're not limited to doing it today, but collectively, we're stronger when we do it together. Mr. Keshe said 12 p.m. CET or 18 p.m. CET every Sunday, releasing the GANs waters. Gas is a nanosolid. And these energies, this state of matter knows where to go and what to do. And if you're not sure about making ganses, it was funny in this workshop, Mr. Keshe said the knowledge seekers haven't, if you go to a scale up to 100, the knowledge seekers haven't reached 1% of understanding how ganses are made. But we understand in a way the basic ganses. I know Mr. Keshe uses thousands of different ganses. We're using the basic 4 and we haven't understood it. And you would think by him making that kind of statement that he would go back and train us more till we got to understand 50% of it or 75% of it. But when he was asked a question by that Iranian knowledge seeker in this workshop about the magravs and things, and he said how Iran made a successful magrav system, he said we've moved beyond the making of ganses, even though they're going to be included. And I noticed there was a new product in the store as well. It was called a wellness GANS. I don't know if anyone saw that. Let's see if we can just quickly find it. It was in a little bottle. It just said wellness GANS. I don't know if this was for pain or something else. I'm not seeing it right there. Let's see if we can GANS products, perhaps it's under here. Not sure. Let's see. There was a wellness GANS. This is a clean water one. And this is a one for fungus processing. If you go to any of these salons and pick up this sort of problem, this is the knee GANS to rebuild the cartilage in the knee and help with those conditions. I'm just looking for here it is right here. Keshe GANS Relief Wellness. Now it doesn't say much about this. I don't know if it's a test or not. And if you click on this picture, it doesn't really whatever that is, and whatever sort of wellness. Maybe it's an overall type of wellness, but I thought we'd just highlight that. Keshe GANS Relief Wellness. So this is a new product, if I'm correct. I haven't seen it before. I know Mr. Keshe talked about this pain or chronic pain. Maybe that's part of the relief they're talking about. I think he mentioned that a couple of workshops ago, about having something for the chronic pain or pain relief and the rest of it, but I don't see a description here exactly of what this wellness is. Emotional, physicality, or perhaps both.
Hello, Mark.
Yes.
I had a case years ago. I had an opportunity to see a Canadian Olympic athlete, and they were experiencing chronic pain. And the question was, where exactly is the pain? And the answer was, it's all over.
Is that rheumatoid? Is that what they call? I think that was the word he used for pain, overall pain, or rheumatoid pain.
No, I think it's fibromyalgia. English.
Okay. Yep.
Fibromyalgia.
Yep. Fibromyalgia. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, that would make sense. So the point being was that he had pain, but that pain was all over the body. And I've spoken about the somatoscope and how we can see the live blood analysis, right? So I had a chance to look at his live blood analysis. It was shocking. There was no motion. There was hardly any somatids. So the question was with respect to his diet and his training. The man was 30 years old, and he was following the strict guidelines of the Canadian dietary recommendations. And so that's what he did. He became, should we say, he was energy depleted. And so we corrected that. And when I say we, I only got a chance to see it. But what had happened is he was given a different set of nutrition, and it restored it. And it all has to do with the vitality of the somatids and the quantity of the somatids. So if you've never seen a live blood analysis, it's very active, and the somatids are kind of bouncing all over the place like billiard balls, and they're very, very active. But there's definitely a synchronicity, and there's definitely a pattern that follows. And with a number of somatids present in the blood there, it directly affects the vitality that the person experiences. So
yes, I heard someone else talking about those somatids, and I said, gee, I know someone who talks about somatids.
Tiny bodies.
Second
Yeah.
time I heard about that, but they were saying if you can keep it young, I guess you can keep the body young. Something along that line. I don't know if they were correct, and I don't know if I'm remembering correctly. But this product, this particular product here, anyone want to guess what it's for? Relief Wellness. When you click on the picture, you just get the picture. Normally there's a description with it. We'll have to ask Rick or some of the others what this product is about. Anyone?
Well, what I'm suggesting is that there is a relationship between the vitality of the somatids, dehydroepiandrosterone, the DHEA, and I think this GANS product, all of them fall under the umbrella of wellness. Okay. Because if you have a bone pain or you have a muscle pain, that's a specific pain. But if you can't put your finger on the pain, if it's overall pain all over your body, then that's a wellness pain. Would you agree?
I don't know. I'm not obviously a medical doctor. I'm not sure, but yeah, you mean when you can't pinpoint it, but you're just achy all over, like with the flu,
Yeah,
but it's not from a viral infection, it's from
well,
something.
it just that, that doesn't matter. You stand on your head or lie down, you're just not feeling well. It's not based on position. It's not based on compress. It's not based on a sling or a surgery on a particular part of the body. It's just wellness, overall wellness.
Okay, very good. So that's available. Again, I'm sure it comes with a description of how to use it, how to apply it, but I didn't see anything with it that came with it. Anyone want to make any other comments about that? GAN's wellness? Okay. Okay, so let's go on and create the dome of peace through our energies. Again, learning how to work with the energies within the sessions, learning how to work with your energies, creating the dome of peace, learning to reach your son, your daughter, your wife on the dimension of the soul. This is all, as you can see, how it's sort of coalescing together. So let's go to the dome of peace if we can.
I don't know if anyone want to read this dome of peace. Anyone want to offer?
I
With
will
a nice
read it
voice.
for you.
Okay.
This is what came in and what is now become a pattern. This from a guy, I don't know him, but he says, please remember this Sunday and every Sunday from now on, till we raise the soul of this planet to a peaceful planet. Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers worldwide will spread the gas waters around the world at 12 p.m. Central European Time and or 18 p.m. Central European Time every Sunday at the same time as they choose which time to suit them. Thank you for participating in this greatest movement by the soul of the man to bring about the peace on this planet as the permanent feature of the life of this planet.
Thank you, Stefania. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. And again, working through the energies, even if it is an energy in the GANs, which is considered a state of matter. I mean, it's between matter, let's say, and plasma. It sort of has its own unique classification in a way, like Christ, sort of, where he has his own sort of classification. But anyway, this is the first step of the process, and it's something for your physicality to do. Now, maybe many of you have moved away from spraying the GANS waters, but he said we continue to do this and are just using your dimension of energies. But this is part of the process. It seems always there's a physicality and there's a soul level on this. So we'll go to the second part of the Dome of Peace where we use our energies, and we'll take 5 minutes in just a minute or two and start continuing to practice becoming more familiar with these energies. Again, your wife, your son, your neighbor, your coworker would probably tell you it doesn't exist. You're just imagining all these things. But we know more. We understand a deeper process is going on here. And eventually, if they choose to, they'll come around to the same understanding. As he said, Fox will disappear and some of the others will disappear, but the knowledge will remain. So this is our second point in creating the Dome of Peace.
Anybody wants to read the Dome of Peace? I mean, beautiful souls. Here. Okay. I'll read this beautiful presentation of Dome of Peace, and the Dome of Peace is already here all the knowledge seekers, truth seekers, lovers of humanity has built in a way, spreading the guns, loving each other as shareholders. So I will read this as please remember every Sunday from now on until we raise the soul of this planet to a peaceful planet, Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers worldwide will spread the Gans waters around the world at 12 p.m. CET and or at 18 p.m. CET every Sunday at the same time, as they choose which time to suit them. Thank you for the participation in this greatest movement by the soul of man to bring about the peace on this planet as a permanent feature of the life of this planet. Mr. Keshe suggests we add the next step to create the dome of peace with power of the souls, as we have already going through this with the 2 eyes. And we ask you to spread the Gans waters each Sunday. Now we give you a new path. Now try to unite each other's souls. Try to elevate the souls of humanity, soul of humanity, through your own soul to a level that no one can touch the embodiment of the human race. So beautiful. Choose a time where all of you come together on the soul level in a state of inner calmness. At that time, don't spread the water of Gans, but spread your soul. Unite, and in time, we will make a new race out of the soul of man. And then, instead of doing it once a week, do it all the time. Keshe.
Thank you, Shweta. And again, just a reminder, you can join with the Universal Council every day and about this time, maybe 20 minutes before, and do the same thing. You can also join with the Brazilian team. I'm just looking for that. Again, here, join the intention Wednesday at 6 p.m. Together we bring the change, or the daily intention at 1 a.m. So these are how we're learning, and as more and more people take part in this process, we will see the change happening more and more. But it's going to be the soul of the collective awareness by giving will create this position of change. So let's practice that right now and take 5 minutes if we can. Let me just bring this up, 5 minutes of silence. Thank you. I think it was Randy who made that for me. Thank you, Randy. Or perhaps it was Jacko. I'm not sure. I can't recall. So let's just take 5 minutes of silence, use our energies to bring the change, and you can include whoever you'd like in this. Again, it's for the elevation of the 5+1 peace negotiators, the soul of the International Atomic Energy Agency, all those working for peace, the soul of humanity, the soul of world leaders and religious leaders. This is the way we're going to make the change, not through force, not through muscle, not through the physicality, but it's going to come through the energies. And this is how we're learning to work, including the Universal Council. So let's just take 5 minutes starting now and use your own energies in this dimension of peace and calmness to bring the change that's needed. Thank you. Thank you all for your continued participation as you choose in this process. Again, you can join the Brazilian intentions, the daily or weekly. You can join with the Universal Council. We're practicing using the energies. Even to reach others, you can start practicing that. Ed wrote a very nice piece here in one of the chats. Ed, I don't know if you're able to read it or even have a copy of it. I'll read it for you, or unless you'd like to read it. It's very nicely written, and it's a wish for 2024 for everyone. For those of you who sincerely wish for change in your life, may 2024 be a turbulent year for you. It is unlikely we will obtain our goals and aspirations without change, and the shifting of emotional or physical states will require us to go through fear, uncertainty, doubt, and pain. We may change gradually or quickly. I think the choice is somewhat ours unless the soul dictates differently. But whatever the case, I think it is unlikely to be all joy, peace, and pleasantness. So let us consider our path, and I wish for you and myself the elevation of soul and acceptance, patience, endurance. It is with thanks when I think of you, my companions. May you have an interesting and turbulent new year, and along the way, perhaps the attainment of greater joy, peace, and happiness. Thank you, Ed. And that's for himself, but also for all the others as well. And again, making these wishes, communicating on the energy level is a dimension we've been sort of pushed away from. This isn't real. You've got to have mortar and bricks. Otherwise, it's not real, but we're understanding a deeper understanding of how the energies actually move and change things. And that can be created with the 129 Tesla, or can be created in another soul, or even your own soul. So this is the beautiful gifts that we've all received from the Keshe Foundation. So thank you all. And I think perhaps Alex would like to come in now. Alex, if you're ready, we appreciate your time and what you've put together to share, or whatever you'd like to do at this point is fine with us. We're here to support your work and also to become enlightened by what you share with us. So if you're available, please come in.
And thank you very much, Mark. Thanks for bringing us to this point. And I want to thank Ed for his profound words. It's really nice to hear.
Yeah, it may not all be peaches and cream, or whatever they say, peaches and roses. There may be some ups and downs to this process, but we're becoming well seasoned to it. So thank you, Ed, as well. Thank you, Alex.
And thank you for allowing me to present again. So here we go.
Okay, I think, let's see if this comes up. We're waiting for it to start playing. It doesn't seem to be moving.
Okay, that was a fail.
Okay, we have optimized for sound.
Yeah, we do.
Double check
let
that.
me just
Sometimes I mess up on that.
okay, I tried to do something different, and so that didn't work.
Okay.
Allow me to try one more time here.
No problem. We
You
need to
never
have
seem to get it
patience.
right.
There's no problem.
Okay. What about now? Would this work now? That doesn't make sense.
Okay, is the volume up enough? But it doesn't seem that the icon is moving. It's like it
Okay.
doesn't want to start for some reason.
It doesn't want to start. Okay.
I do have it, Alex, if you'd like me to play it, but let's see if we can work out your system here.
Okay, so what I have to do here is I have to I'm going to start this over again. I tried something
Yeah, no problem.
and
No
it didn't
problem.
work.
We're all on a learning path. Especially
And
me.
oh my, I think I found a problem, and now I have to find a solution. Okay, I see the solution. The solution is I need to learn how to do things. Okay. So that's gone. So why is that? Okay, we'll try again this.
Yeah, we're just seeing your name at this point, so I don't think you've shared the panel that you want to play yet.
I don't know why I'm having this trouble now here.
Okay, Alex, I can play it.
Yeah, but I can't even play my own screen here. Screen sharing has failed to start. So I messed it up somehow.
Okay, yeah, I'm not seeing any screen sharing from anyone right now.
Okay, I see what my problem is.
No problem.
Okay, voila. That's number one. And now for my next trick, we're going to try this.
That's the foil we usually see you start with something. Yeah, here it is. Here's the disclaimer coming up.
And it's okay, so I think something's wrong with the video. So I'm going to pass it back to you, please, if you can run the disclaimer. I apologize to everybody for this glitch.
Run that very quickly. And let me just share the screen so everyone can see the disclaimer. Sound is optimized. Video is optimized. We continue.
Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
Well, as you can see, Alex, I know a lot about computers, but as Mr. Keshe said, even if you know a lot about computers doesn't mean you know anything. So let's see if you'd like to take the screen back. You've grabbed the screen, great. We're just waiting for it to populate. There's your first slide.
Thank you
Keshe
very
American
much.
Knowledge Team 2024. Thank you, Alex, again.
And a memo to everyone, when Zoom does an upgrade, you have to reset your presentation. So that's what's happened, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. No problem at all. We appreciate your presence and your sharing of knowledge, your understanding.
So this is the Keshe American Knowledge Team meeting. And I want to thank you all for being here. This is a very special time. And in many parts of the world, they are already celebrating. But I want to thank you for being here, because this is the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Teachings on Plasma Science. We're still discussing basic transmission. Today's subject is field capture. My name is Alexander. I'm from Canada, and it's still December 31st, 2023. This is the Keshe Foundation North America Plasma Education Series. So yeah, there's a lot of people have already gone into the new year, and it's interesting to see how people celebrate with fireworks around the world. We are talking about the extension on our basic teachings. The purpose of this, of course, is to distill the number of hours, the vast number of hours that we have, which is in the thousands of hours, as we've gone over 10 years in terms of basic transmission through knowledge seekers workshops and other venues. And somehow we still have a mountain of teaching to do, and we need to be able to do that better and better. So all these basic teachings are kind of tools for each individual to be able to grab onto, and maybe what we could talk about is the field capture today, because what we've been trying to figure out is what is the difference between physicality and plasma reality. And maybe we have not been complete in doing that. So we're offering something a little bit different, because we still have donkey resistance called hesitancy, because traveling on the donkey is the lowest energy state. But it could even be worse. We could be walking, but we found that rolling is faster than walking, and this is how far we've gotten. Because when we look at the books of Marantava Kolikesh, we see the book number 1, The Universal Order of Creation of Matter. And so there we see a field. And in book number 2, The Structure of Light, then we see where there's one field and another field, and a relationship between those two fields. And then there's book number 3, The Origin of the Universe. And one wonders if that should be book number 1. So we have begun a new process to embark on a new kind of transmutation preparation, because we have engaged partial transmutation. And so there's a lot of preparation that needs to be put in. And so for the next 6 months, every third Friday of the month, we will be conducting sessions to, shall we say, train ourselves. Because let's face it, we have a lot to untrain. And we've been trying to bring world peace. And so to timestamp everything, this week we had a 306th One Nation, One Planet, One Race for world peace. And, you know, one would be right in questioning whether or not we are successful. But we are only part of the situation, because we're all still searching for outer space. And as we're gathering speed on the plasma highway, we're seeking that little pie in the sky. Well, we have that little pie. It's our little tiny Earth as part of man's universe. That's just such a tiny piece. What about the rest of the universe? And so the only way to explore that rest of the universe is to get on the plasma highway. But we see that the plasma highway is operating on a different level as a transmission highway And this is what we want to focus on, because when we're talking about the embodiment in the universe, a couple of questions remain, and that is the speed of light the fastest transmission? And if that were to be true, then the faster you go, the bigger you get. And would that be true? And so we found that the only way to be able to verify that is to be able to get onto these faster vehicles and measure for yourself. But when we found out that when we get into those faster vehicles, that we ourselves are using a bigger ruler. And so when we look at the creation of the universe and we see that it exists from energy, that energy is always in motion. And so all things are working in combination. And so this is where the charge comes in. We have to determine which way are we referencing in that combination. So if we're working for the singular field, like the universal order of creation of matters, and we see how the matter, dark matter and antimatter come together into one field, and then that one field has to have a relationship with another field. And where exactly is that field, and how do we do that? And so now we realize the dilemma. But the fact of the matter is that we've all used this when we made the cups of life. And the key point in making the cups of life is that they were not the cups of pandemic, but they were brought about as a result of the pandemic and the necessity thereof, because this facilitated the emotional strength of our inner space. And as such, we learned a lot, not the least of which is how to produce different ganses. CO2 GANs, calcium GANs, zinc GANs, copper GANs, H2O GANs, amino acid GANs. And how does that compare to the ganses that are in our body? Or how does that compare to all the ganses in the Earth space? And so we find that the Earth space consists of a lot of ganses. And since we are part of that Earth space, we consist in our physicality of the same ganses. And so that becomes part of the plasma reality. So when we're looking at how we created these ganses, we had to talk about the origin on the x-axis transmission. And so as we roll along, we try and see that if we are rolling a wheel that's perpendicular to the ground, but the wheel on the car has an input, and that input is a rotation field, but it's perpendicular to the motion. So the input comes from the motor and goes sideways to the wheel, whereas the motion goes forward. So the output motion is aligned with the rotation. And when we look at the position of the car, and we say, well, here's one position and here's another position, not the same position. So what is the difference in this position? And so one could say, well, the car runs on fuel. And so to move from one position to another, it would have to consume fuel. So the car is the same, but in exchange for the motion, there's a consumption of fuel. Okay, well, I can agree with that. But what happens if the car is on a slope and I turn the engine off? So in other words, what is the difference in the position of the car with no motor sitting at the top of the hill and the car with no motor sitting at the bottom of the hill? It's the same car. Everything about the car, the driver, maybe, the baggage in the car, the motor, the fuel, it's all the same. Nothing's been consumed, but something else has caused a difference in position. And so this is a factor that we have to look at when we're talking about field capture. How does that work? So we're looking at x-axis transmission, and that's basically rotation that's perpendicular to the ground. And we don't see what's going on until we get into a really muddy situation. And perhaps this muddy situation will clear up the picture, because as we drive through the mud, the wheel picks up the mud. So can we say that the mud is magnetically attracted to the wheel? Can we say that the wheel is magnetic? The wheel is made of rubber. And how is the rubber magnetic with the mud? So we never really asked that question, did we? We just kind of assumed. But then with the advance of radar, we found that instead of rolling along, if we were parallel to the ground and we created this rotating field parallel to the ground, that we could capture images. And so the radar rolls around on the screen and you can see the bar that goes around, and every time it goes around, it refreshes the screen and gives you an image. That's a form of image capture. But what we're talking about is man space. What is our position in this field? Because each and every one of us is personally quite interested in that fact. In fact, you'd be more interested in your own field than you would be in my field. So we all have a vested interest in that. And then the question is, how does our field interact? And so we all have this personal nature, but oddly enough, when we go to a music concert, we have other people that come there. So it's a form of people capture. We share the field with them. Or you go to a sporting event and other people come together. And of course, sports fans. But then you have this anomaly where there's no mud on the outside, but there is salt on the inside. And it's not in the middle. It's literally plastered to the outside. And what you're looking at here is a glass with GANs. And the GANs is plastered to the side, but it's on the inside, not on the outside. So how does that work? So when we're talking about people capture on the x-axis transmission, is it possible that when we replace the mud with these white lines, maybe the white lines are magnetic? You could argue that that would be true, because look at all the people coming together. The point I'm trying to make is that we capture all these people, but there's no music, there's no sporting event, and they're not all from the same idea. Each of them have their own individual agenda. They all have things to do. Some go shopping, some want to go to the show, some want to go for a walk, some want to go see their grandma. So we had this rolling along anomaly. And so we figured out that more has to be taken into account. You can't just depend on the x-axis transmission because there are other factors. And if that sounds very simplistic, it is. Okay, because this keeps coming back. So what it means is that if we get this x-axis transmission and it's perpendicular to the ground, but we spin 360 degrees, so we get this rotation not only in one direction, but in many directions. And so we find that the diameter and the circumference becomes a sphere, and it's a relationship to pi. And so we see that the rules for circles and the rules for spheres are basically the same. And so we have 2 feeding dimensions, 3 feedback dimensions, and we are in the 4th dimension. So if we're talking about field capture and we realize that the x-axis transmission parallel to the ground is not enough, so we need to have y-axis transmission. It's not just parallel to the ground, but it's perpendicular to the ground. And we always assume that the ground is at the bottom, right? Ceiling on top. But if we keep this process ongoing, we find that there's a difference in position. Now, that position doesn't necessarily mean location. Because if you're inside the car and you're moving with the car, wherever you go to, you're still inside the car. So the car is what's moved. You haven't changed. But if you look at this field capture and you see that there's an x-axis transmission and a y-axis transmission, and as it comes together, even though it's in the same spot, it's not the same. Because as the field is being captured, that process continues. So there's more of a field capture. And so it rivals this spinning of 360 degrees that we see of the rotating fields. And we see that suddenly this becomes totally different. So not only is the field capture on the inside, but the field capture is on the outside. And in order to do that, we have to spin along. So in understanding field capture, we have to look at the plasmatic field capture. And one of those things that we can rely on for that purpose is nebulous evidence. And so we see galaxies and how they rotate, and you can see the circular motion and the spinning, the rotation. And then, of course, our favorite, Earth, the physical field capture. And it's very comforting because this gives us rock solid evidence. And then we look at Jupiter, and it's still physical field capture, but it's not rock solid. It's gas solid. And then we look at other structures, and we still see them physically. So they're still solid, but they're kind of nebulous. Nebulous solid evidence of field capture. And then as we look at the galaxies and we see through them, you kind of see the difference between this physical muddy field capture and that nebulous, murky evidence of the rest of the universe. So there has to be some kind of correlation between the field capture of the nebulous murkiness and the physical muddiness. And we're in the post-November the 11th, 2023 era. We can have some choices in understanding the differences between outer space, inner space, and our Earth space. And we've been trying for 518 knowledge seekers workshops in a row to transcend the limitations of nuclear science. And the matter plasma dimension and understanding of such is limited by man's dominance of the feedback orientation. So in other words, we're seeing the X transmission, and now we're seeing the Y transmission. And that's all we're seeing. And that's not enough. There's more. And if nothing else, that's the most important point. This is the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Teachings on Plasma Science, welcoming all beautiful knowledge seekers. There's a World Peace Treaty. Sign it with your heart and celebrate it with your soul. For spacemen, snowbirds, and sports fans all over the world, you can find heaven through the transmission of perpendicular motion with the guidance and assistance of perpendicular rotation. The field capture is the reward for motion and a cause for universal celebration. Plasma science needs to continue to be delivered daily in exchange for peace on Earth. So welcome to the new year and welcome to the new outer space age. Thank you for allowing me to present. Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you very much, Alex. Happy New Year to you and your family and the planet and the rest. Hopefully we'll see some more of the changes start to come in. Trevor had put something in the American Telegram. Maybe I can just read it here for everyone. And this was from about 4 years ago. And then you take the screen back, Alex. Just a moment. There. And this is from August of 20. And it's from the Knowledge Seekers 343. And it sort of goes, it all goes along in a way with what we're all teaching. All the teachings are connected. Why does man have to wait until it dies, until it achieves a freedom of physicality? Where man can find that in the time of his physical existence and then extend the life of the man to everlasting. This is why we see the growth and prosperity of a nation, because the nation is becoming at peace with itself. The leaders of the nations have to create the condition that its citizens find peace, that through it they find a place between their souls and their physicality, and in totality, mankind enters and becomes part of the universal community, connected like a terminal to a server, as man already is a citizen of a spaceship called Earth in the span of the universe. When you have misguided leaders, you end up with misguided citizens. And then you find every word to find justification when a misconduct of the physicality, if the man to confirm it is my right to have. The greed of the man has to understand the position of the soul of the man, the heartbeat of the man, and to be content with achieving peace within the physical structure of the man. These are not sermons, these are the teachings which the man needs to enter the universal community to find peace on this planet. When a number of you reach this point, that the magnetosphere of your conduct of your souls in finding peace reaches the others of the same strength across the planet, then the planet shall glow. And with it, it will enlighten the rest of the souls of this physical existence. The mankind, through the soul of the man, you feed the soul of the plant, fish, lion, that through you they receive, they shall not kill. This is the wisdom of the time. The crucifixion of Christ is the crucifixion of the soul of the man in the dimension of his physicality. Does not matter what land, color, race, path of belief. There is a soul free to complete the first sphere of the totality of peace for mankind, to kindle the light of peace on this planet. That soul has been here for a long time, needs the correctness of conduct in peace with those who understand they can reach, that they have access to it, and can create a condition of kindling the first light of peace. The burden of responsibility is huge, but understanding of the truth needs the understanding of the truth of the man to himself and no one else. He says it's from the 343, he believes. So I thought that was a nice message we'd just read. But again, this is what's happening. There's a process going on here to find this and then be able to transfer it to the others, perhaps even directly through the soul. So this is how it's going to spread in conjunction with the systems and other systems and Mitra and the rest of it. It's all being put together in a very, very nice package to be delivered drip by drip in a way at this point, but then it'll speed up later on. So thank you, Trevor, for pointing that out. And there's so many beautiful passages and understandings in every Knowledge Seekers workshop. So we encourage you all to spend more time with it, spend more time with yourself, and open up some of these things that you become more confident as the last man standing here or in the space. Alex, if you'd like to take the screen back, please do.
I'll take the screen back, Mark, but please carry on.
Okay. No, I just thought I'd bring that up and about these, again, these monthly sessions. This is what is being promoted now by the Keshe Foundation and offering for everyone to start experience that new dimension in their life that they knew was there. Maybe they've experienced it sometimes, getting a phone call, but now it's going to become more interactive and more interactive. Where he said, you know, you're having trouble with your son, you reach him through the soul and the son calls you on the telephone. And you say, I knew you'd call me. And you work things out. And I guess that's happening in the sessions too. Fences are being mended. All depends where you want to take it, I think. But it's all, once you understand it, then you're taking it to the others, to serve the others this same knowledge in a humble way and not in an abusive way. How come you don't get it? I explained it to you 50 times already. But we'll just gently nurture and bring them along in this new understanding of what we all have. And every created thing apparently has it as well. Even the souls that have left this planet, from the birds to the bees, millions of years ago, are creating new dimensions, new universes in the galaxy, in the universe. So this is the correction. I think this is part of the correction the Creator is going through with his own creation, in a way, stepping it up. So it's going to be a great 2024. We wish you all well, happiness, peacefulness, and joy. Anyone want to add anything? Please do. So since he mentioned that we haven't gotten to 1% to understand GAN's making, Alex, why isn't he going back and correcting or adding to our understanding before he moves into the soul dimension? Isn't that a prerequisite in a way? You need to know the GANs from top to bottom, like it's the back of your hand, before you can move into this dimension of energy.
Well, I think, Mark, it's clearly demonstrating our point of view dominance. So, the subject matter was fascinating because of the introduction of the GANs. Right? So for all of us who are physically dominant, this was an intriguing opportunity to see something different. And it was confounding because it was physical, and yet it was plasmatic. And so this becomes instructive because the physicality is a plasma condition. It just happens to be physical. So therefore, we have to understand also better what it means to be plasmatic. And so in today's subject, for instance, with respect to field capture, we only see the result, the physicality. But we cannot continue in our physicality without field capture. Can't be done. So this is an ongoing process. And because we're so physically dominant, we don't see that process. We don't recognize it. We don't acknowledge it. And learning how to produce more Ganses only reinforces that physical positioning. What we need to understand is where these Ganses come from. So the answer to that question is the same answer that you get, where does the Earth come from? And is the same answer as to, where does Jupiter come from? I mean, clearly, Earth is a lot more solid than Jupiter, but I mean, Jupiter is still there and we can see it. So even though it's a gaseous planet, it's still solid. It's still physical.
And
So-
wasn't that interesting when he said the whole secret of the CO2 box, and he shared it after 30 years, he said, this is your life represented in that CO2 box, where you've come from the dimension of energy into the dimension of matter state, and then move back into the dimension of energy. Isn't this our life cycle? Which for 30 years, he said he hadn't shared that with anyone, but that's what he was trying to convey to us by teaching this.
Well, because it's a very important point. But, in reality, that point was lost. The only person who was really cared about that point was him. Nobody else cared about that point because it didn't seem to be relevant, to all of these things. What is the common difference? The common difference between the field capture of Jupiter and the field capture of Earth, because there is a difference, right?
Yeah.
But it's still physicality.
Yeah, he
So-
used to tell us, don't look at the GANs, look at the fields, but I could never see the fields. I was trying to see the
precisely.
fields, but I kept looking at the GANs, but now, and just like he does with some of the drawings, he sort of erased the GANs. Now all that's left are the energies. Now we work with that.
Well, exactly. So this is why the car rolls down the hill. Okay, the motor's not on. You're sitting inside the car, nothing changes, you're still physical, but you look outside the window and hey, the car's moving. So, how does that happen?
And probably we would have stayed in the dimension of physicality longer if we kept drilling deeper down into understanding of the GANs and different making of the GANs and the amino acids and the rest of it. But he seems to have shelved that in a way for now, till we come back to it perhaps later. But he seems to be indicating about working with these energies, these emotions, these fields, more than a physicality.
Well, I have to go back to a point that you brought up earlier. And that has to do with the need for the universal body enhancement spaceship units. You know, we don't really need them. Yeah, we do need them because we have been indoctrinated and it's been drilled into us, if you will, through habit and repetition, that, you know, the only existence that matters is the physically dominant matter state. Totally oblivious to the fact that the physically dominant matter state is a byproduct of the plasmatically dominant matter state. So if we're looking at the common denominator, we have to look at how can different answers have a common cause. So if you say, well, wait a second, we have this nebulous galaxy and it's murky, but then we have this muddy field and our muddy understanding of our physicality. How come, you know, how come that is? These are clearly two different fields. So how can the creation of these two different fields be caused by the same thing? And we don't ask that question because, first of all, who do you ask? You know, I asked my teacher in school and he got angry with me for asking the question. Then I asked a professor and, you know, they don't really know. And if you look at a lot of the scientists over the years, and because I myself was never a scientist, so I was not qualified to have an opinion on any of these things. So I always had the utmost respect for all of these scientists. But when you look at their CV, their resume, you find that most of them have created their fame while they were in university. And they rode that as if they rode a coattail through their entire life. And you say, well, you were in university in your 20s. So for 20 some odd years, you were able to create this greatness. But from your 20s to your 70s, which is, you know, 50 years, you didn't create anything, nothing novel, nothing new, no advanced revelation. How is that possible? So either, you know, you lucked into a thing of discovery, or you actually invented something. But clearly, if in the rest of your life you didn't invent anything, then you were fake to begin with. All you did, you just accidentally fell into the mud and you say, hey, you know, it's like, oh, an apple fell on my head. Oh, you know what? I discovered gravity. Sure. This is inadequate. And we've all had to settle because we have no alternative. Well, now we have an alternative. And what's really cool is that we become part of that alternative. Because you don't have to turn to someone else and say, oh, you know, I wonder what the answer is to this question. You know, we can all look internally and say, wait a second. I see that I can produce GANs physically, but I can also produce GANs in my inner space. And to produce the GANs in my inner space, I don't need to bring nano-coated wires and plates and salt and stuff like that together. I don't need to do that. The me, don't need to do that. It is done for me, and me being restricted to my physicality. So there is a plasma reality that does that for me. And who is that? Well, that is the soul of the body. And who does it for the soul of the body? Well, that is the soul of the man. Oh, so all of a sudden there's more. So how do you teach that? And are you able to do that right away? So, if you've never played say a piano, and I give you a keyboard and I say, play me a song, and you say, well, I don't know how to play that. Well, I'm giving you the keyboard. So giving you the keyboard does not teach you on how to play the songs. You actually have to learn how to do that. So the Universal Body Enhancement Unit is the teaching method. So we already have the keyboard. We are the keyboard. We need to learn how to do that. So right now we have an intermediary that assists us. You could call it a crutch, but that has a negative connotation. It's an assist. It's an enhancement. And once you get to the point, you say, oh, I don't need my music teacher anymore. I'm going to play a song. I'm just going to go to that keyboard and I'm going to play a song. And this is what the future holds for us. And that, I think, is very exciting. Don't you agree?
Agreed. And if you were to weight these dimensions, Alex, like what's more important, the dimension of physicality, the dimension of energy, would we think one is more important than the other? Because I think they're both equally important. In a way, we're just blind to the energy dimension. But to gain this immortality, you have to play one off against the other in a way, as I understand it. The dimension of physicality and then the dimension of energy, where you play in both dimensions. You're going to need both, I would think, not only now, but in your continuing existence, to be able to play off of these two dimensions. And we know there's more dimensions, but right now we're just trying to master. So would you put a weight on it, or would you weight them equally in a way? The understanding of the two dimensions.
So I think that's a great question. And for the international audience, when you're saying weight, you're attributing importance.
Yes, a degree of importance. Yep.
Degree of importance. So just for the translation. Anyway, the thing is that they are integral to each other. You cannot segregate the two. And because of that, I have come to the conclusion years ago, actually, that the physicality is an interpretation of the energy field capture. And so it is different from the kind of energy field capture that you would get from a battery, let's say. So in other words, a battery you can hold in your hand, but there's energy inside that battery, and you don't get a chance to enjoy that energy until you hook it up into a circuit. But the battery itself is physical, and the creation of the battery itself is as a result of that energy. So we don't see the similarity between those two, right? Because we segregate the two. One's a battery and one's energy in the battery. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is the physicality is a product of the energy. And so that means the physicality is a gift. The physicality is a bonus. The physicality is a feature. We are not an inferior race, where let's just talk about conventional discussion, where the aliens are superior to us. As soon as you say that, then the physicality has an appearance that it's inferior. So if we understand that everybody's equal, so even the aliens, so-called aliens, would be equal to us. There's no inferiority and there's no superiority. Then what is the difference? And so I submit that the difference is that we have somehow fortunately mastered physicality. And the only reason that we can't differentiate those things is because we have persona like Buddha, Muhammad, and Jesus, who were able to transcend the two, shall we say, dimensions, but they didn't know how to teach it. Well, they didn't have the benefit of the advanced technology that we have today, the advanced technology of physicality. And so I think it's through the advancement of the physical technology that has gotten us to the point where we have to recognize the plasma technology. And there's no case that is more profound today than the total collapse, by example, of the semiconductor industry in the United States. Because there's been a continual race to the smallest chip, if you will. So we talk about 128 nanometers, 42 nanometers, 28 nanometers, 7, 5, 3, 2, 1. And then we're coming down to the point of physical limitation. And if I draw your attention to that progression, and I submit, it is an exclusive X transmission. And so we've come down to the physical limitation. What happens then? So then we have to go into the plasmatic realm to transcend that limit of the physical limitation. And if we have to transcend that limitation, that means the physical limitation is the limitation of the physicality, but is the beginning of the plasmatic reality. And so you will see that our science will become advanced because the whole description, the whole adjective advanced technology is it needs to be advanced. And today's computers are really not advanced. Sure, they're advanced when you compare them to donkeys, but when you compare them to the plasma science, it's not advanced. And so we now are in the point of having the awareness that there is more. We have to be more demanding. We have to be demanding of more because we have this physical gift. We have this physical feature that allows us to do this and allows us to teach and then allows us to enjoy heaven on earth because that is the purpose. And if you disagree with that, well, I'm at a loss for words then. Thanks, Mark.
Right. So if it was just the opposite, if we were born or existed in the dimension of energy, we'd have to learn, and only in that dimension, we'd have to learn the dimension of physicality, wouldn't we? Or maybe some of
Precisely.
those beings don't enter into the physicality. They feel it's beneath them in a way. But as Mr. Keshe said, there's many beauties and many knowledges to be understood using the physicality as well.
100%.
Yeah, we'd have to go one way to the other or from the physicality to understand the energy dimension. So this is why I think that working together with the universal community, we'll have a lot to teach them. It was explained to us, and they'll have a lot to teach us. So we'll have a long-term working relationship in a way where they become more familiar with the physicality and we become more familiar with more advanced systems.
So you remember how shocking it was? Well, it was shocking to me anyway, was when the visitors were coming. And I said, well, if you're supposedly advanced alien race, why using the universal body enhancement units for visitation facilities.
Right, and the ailments that they suffer from are somewhat similar to what we suffer from, which doesn't seem to work true to me, but apparently it is. I always saw them as quite superior. They're traveling galaxies or solar systems, and they're not fueling that we know of, not eating that we know of, not killing, but understanding way, way more than we do. So I always consider them, highly talented, let's say.
Yeah, so in that regard, they would be more advanced. So we're talking about not killing and morality and things like that. So as I mentioned in the past, the ability to engage in immoral activity or mass murder and things like that is because of the ability to delay the consequences in the physicality. So you cannot do that in the universal community, because the consequences are immediate, and so they can even be direct, and then this is undesirable. So it just doesn't even, shall we say, cross their mind. So it's not a problem. Okay, it's an earthbound problem, or it's a problem that's bound in physicality, and it isn't just bound here. It's bound in other places, but it is being restricted because we're under quarantine, and rightfully so. So until we shape up and step up our game, we're gonna remain in the lower divisions, if you will. So if we want to elevate our position, then we have to understand that it's not elevating from a point of physicality, it's a point of elevating from our morality.
And if you're entering the universe in the dimension of energy, you shouldn't expect to see any UFOs, I think Mr. Keshe told us, or any aliens in a way, because you're going to be interacting with them on the energy level rather than in their physicality. Because
So
obviously, if they're in a craft, they're in the dimension of physicality, aren't they?
exactly. But which aliens will you be interacting with?
Well, I don't know the categories of them, but I would think
Okay,
that
well,
any or
all
all
right.
are okay to interact with, as long as their energies are not too overwhelming.
Well, let's look at the Earth space. So if you want to get together with other people, right? So what are you going to go? You're going to go for some place that is. How does this work? Oh yeah, here we go. You're going to want to go places where people gather. You're not going to want to go to places where cockroaches gather. So then you could ask yourself the question is, what's the difference between cockroaches and people? So the nature of people is your nature. So if you're going into outer space and you're going to interact with the universal community, you're going to interact with beings of your nature. Does that make sense?
It seems to.
Well, let's do one more thing here. So what is the difference in the position? the car at the top of the hill and the car at the bottom of the hill. The only way the car at the bottom of the hill can get there is if it maintains the nature of the car at the top of the hill. So there's a motion. There's a motion between the car at the top of the hill and the car at the bottom of the hill. So the only thing that's changed is the position. The car itself hasn't changed. And so that's my point. If you are going to go into the universal community, you're not going to change into a cockroach. You're going to maintain the same nature. You're going to associate with the same nature of what is your essence. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, but the idea of having the same item on the top of the hill and the bottom of the hill, that would seem more the transmutation in the dimension of physicality.
Exactly.
You're moving the same object. So that would apply to here on Earth. But once you go into the universe in the dimension of energy, these shapes and these configurations don't apply anymore. There's no physicality.
No, but there's energy. So, and if we understand that the energy is the precursor for the physicality.
Correct.
So whether it's in physicality or whether it's in energy, it's the same thing. So the difference in position is through the capture of the energy. You can't move without field capture.
Okay, anyone else would like to join the discussion? Feel free. Okay. You're probably preparing for the New Year's celebration, Alex.
Yeah, yeah. So let's be fair and wish everybody Happy New Year and get ready for lots and lots of changes. Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to continue to present. I really appreciate and respect that you've allowed me to do this. It's been extremely rewarding, and I hope you all benefited from it as well. Thank you again.
Well, it is going to take all of us to unravel this knowledge. Even the universal community is going to get involved at some point. So we want to thank you for sharing, and all the others as well that are here.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you. Yes, anyone want to make any wishes for 2024? We know he's talking about completing a cycle this year or before the year ends. But again, ending one cycle is just the beginning of another cycle. And I mentioned earlier, this ladder has thousands of steps. So we complete one cycle and just go on to the next. And of course, this is just a little momentum that was given to the ones that participated in Manchester, but I think it's very important for all of us to take this into 2024. May you be proud of the work you do, the person you are, and the difference you make. Even if you're not getting that confirmation in the dimension of physicality, know that your energies, your soul is bringing that change on that level. We're just starting in a way, very early in understanding how to use, manipulate these energies to move ourselves, to change conditions, and the rest of it. So we thought we'd share that. Anyone else have anything they'd like to say about 2024? In a few hours, we'll be there. I guess parts of the world are already there. But again, one day leads into the other, and one is the same in a way as the other, although this time there's going to be tremendous changes coming. And this is what we've all been wishing for, but it has to be brought in at the right time, at the right moment, that everything sort of coalesces together. You don't add the salt to the recipe after it's half baked. It won't work. So everything has to be set up and in position, and then the switch will be moved, I would imagine. But thank you all for sharing and coming into these workshops, and continue to share with the other language communities, and just keep understanding. And hopefully you'll participate in these sessions coming up, or I think after that it'll get open to more and more people. I don't know for sure, but that's the way it seems to be going, at least starting with the feeding and other things. So we're just going to work along, understand more, and no one can take this knowledge from you once you have it. That's the beauty of it. They could take your MagRav away, they could take your GANs away, but they certainly cannot take the knowledge you're carrying with you away. And that's why he says no one can touch you here or in the universe. And of course, we want to apply that same ethos, that we wouldn't go out into the universe and abuse as well. So this is the time of the year, in a way, to realize that we've been sold down the river by many of these gurus and pastors and the rest of them. And I don't know, it's hard to think that it's done intentionally. It seems so sincere that they're trying to bring you the knowledge of the Creator, but in a way, it's just a business, apparently. And the business is keeping the customers. Same way this planet didn't want to let its creation leave, wanted to hold on to it. And it works the same way, I think, in many of the different sects that we were talking about today. Let's see, I think somebody's put something. Happy New Year to all. Thank you, Steph, and we wish that as well. I'll play the wellness unit again and the final disclaimer, and the meeting will come to an end. Thank you all for a beautiful 23, and working together, closely together, more and more. The communication bundles are coming out. I think we'll see some unimaginable things being reported in 2024, even by other knowledge seekers that perhaps we can't even believe that they went through such an experience. But it'll just give us more of an appetite that we can achieve the same. So that's what's happening. And more will do it, and more will enjoy it. And of course, everyone's going to have that opportunity. All depends on which way you choose you'd like to go. As he said, we create the conditions. It's up to you to decide whether you want to dive off the diving board or just put a toe in the water. All up to you. So thank you all. Please carry on, continuing on. I think the planet more and more is hungry for this sort of approach and knowledge, especially with what the Chinese are doing in this area of a shared future. And then, of course, the backing with the technology. And that's why the Keshe Foundation satisfies my emotion of bringing this change, because that's what has always, I wanted to see peace on the planet and development. And I think this is the best opportunity I've ever found, not only with the knowledge, but also the support technology, or the technology to assist in this process. And it's universal technology. It's not something that was made here, even though it was made here. The science and the technology is from the universal community, as I see it, directly from the Creator in a way. So thank you all for being a part of all these meetings, and wherever you decide to be and share your understanding, even on the dimension of energies, without saying a word, is fine with me. And I'm sure Alex as well. Any last thoughts or words before we finish? Yes, thank you, Jefferson, Mark, Alex, and everyone present. Happy, wonderful 2024. At time, it starts. Good. Any other words from anyone they'd like to share? Diane says, Happy New Year, everyone. Beautiful souls. Thank we. Okay.
Oh, yeah. And thank you for Alex and Mark for every beautiful Sunday and everybody.
Yeah, no, I think more and more people are growing into this. They're coming to an awareness of they're not happy with the present circumstances, the present conditions, the present economies, and the rest of it. But now they're going to open up to a whole new dimension, and you're the ones that are responsible to deliver it. In conjunction, I'm sure, with the governments and the others, but many of you, I think, will be giving lectures or explaining certain things to small groups or larger groups about this technology and learning how to handle any of the objections that might come forward. As we heard from Mr. Keshe, the different things that the Keshe Foundation is accused of doing. But no problem, and it'll be demonstrated beautifully and right on time. That's another one of the beauties of this. Everything comes right at the right time, even though we may think it's been delayed. So thank you all. Have a wonderful 2024. I'm sure we'll be in touch and continue to share knowledge, and the systems will grow and the foundation will grow. And the Chinese are going to be an integral part of this development, along with Iran and some of the other nations. There's probably a lot more going on in the background, as we read today, that some of the governments or the authorities are already testing the transportation model. So if you see something in the sky that looks like a flight system, you may know where it's come from. All right, thank you all. Any other last words? If not, we'll carry on with our, let's just see, here we go. I want to make sure I'm sharing the screen. Yes. Have a great night. Thank you. Be well, be happy, and be peaceful. 2024.
This is what you see is what is to come. It's the first time you see the Space Center Wellness Center. These systems can reach man in the deepest part of the universe. As you can see, the transmutation and transportation of the soul and the physicality is within the system. And you will see each system on its own. It can reach all conditions of unwellness of the body of the man operated by doctors. It is part of the space program. And for the first time we show what is to come. And these machines have been operating for past 12 months. We know how they work. And some of you who've been to LINS sat in some of these systems. Now they've been positioned as one of the first wellness centers in the world. Now you see the future of wellness, feeding and making peaceful man out of the man. In this center in coming months, hundreds of these units will be installed. And more or less anyone in the world can reach. As you can see, there is room enough to add huge number, and the doctors will monitor everything remote. This is more or less the hospitals of tomorrow with no patients.
Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GANs processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.